Welcome to Veronica Live, and we have such a big show today. We've got Veronica Live family member Linda Cope from the Warrior Beach Retreat. She's going to call in. They've got a big golf tourney, and she has to work really hard to fundraise to host all of these warriors. So we will talk to her about the upcoming golf tourney, and then we've got a brand new Veronica Live family member is going to be joining us, Patrick Chapin. He's the president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber, and he's new. So we'll find out what he's been up to and what he thinks of the chamber so far. And finally, we'll be joined by Mayor Stuart Tettemer. He is the brand new Panama City Beach mayor, just sworn in this week. And wow, where did he come from? Because I was not tracking this race, John. So
no, that was a shocker, another shocker, like the Panama City election.
But we are excited to host him, and he'll be joining us this morning. But oh my goodness, we've got a big show, John. Always a big show.
Always all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and I'm excited to meet the mayor because I was trying to research this morning, and he's really a new guy on scene. And I will say, last week when I did my event for the billionaire, he had just won 2 days prior, and so I messaged him, and he attended because it was on Panama City Beach where my event was, and that was really very exciting to have him there. So I might have been his first event last week.
Kind of break him in, right? Break him in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. But what another crazy week. I spent last night having a romance. Oh, where's my puke bag? Listening to the Howard Stern President Biden interview. So we're definitely going to have to talk about that, John. I'm sure you've seen the stories. I don't know if you've heard, because last night I was asking my husband, I'm like, how do I get on the XM? Because I have XM. We pay $5, a month to have it. And then you can have the app. And it's so funny because they always call my husband every year to renew. And they're like, hey, $20. He goes, I'll pay $5. And then, we get the bargain $5. But last night I was like, oh my goodness, I got to listen to this Howard Stern interview. And so I had to totally log out, log in. But oh my gosh, it's like when you have a cat. And the cat, and I'm not even a cat person, John. The cat's in your lap, and you're stroking the cat. So this was Howard Stern. John can see me on camera. You're stroking the cat. Biden, we love you. Biden, tell us more. Really, you were a lifeguard? Oh my goodness, So it was an hour of no content about his past, meeting his wife when his first wife died, which all of that's nice. But guess what? We're in a war for our country, and those are not. I don't need to hear about his past. John. So
well, he makes it all up, though. That's the bizarre part. It's all fantasy these days. I mean, everything. It's like, he was raised by Italians. He was raised by Polish. He was raised by blacks. I mean, the guy he's completely untethered from reality, and they're always having to chase these stories back. It's like, how can you believe anything the guy says,
Well, it was a total puke-a-thon. I had my Veronica Live airsick bag. It was fully full. And no content, except I think there was the airline. There was a comment about future airline, if they screw you over, they're going to have to pay us finally.
Well, maybe he should check with Pete Buttigieg because they just passed all those regulations. It's not coming; it's already been done. And I think the big news that was breaking there was Biden said he'd debate Trump anywhere, anytime.
Yes. Okay. All right.
And that's not being covered.
That was because they don't want it to happen. They don't want it to happen. And then I think Trump came out and said he'd be happy to debate at the White House, his future house. So, is it going to happen? We'll see. But we've got a big show. Linda Cope, Warrior Beach Retreat. Patrick Chapin, the new president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber. Can't wait to chat with him. And our brand new mayor of Panama City Beach came out of nowhere. So we're going to get to know this man. And guess who has him first? Veronica Live. So we'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with Linda Cope, and she is the founder of the Warrior Beach Retreat, and she's about to have a golf tournament, so that's why we want to rally everybody to go out and support this golf tournament. So, Linda, welcome back. You're a Veronica Live family member. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So you and I did the Warrior Beach Retreat with Alan West. Quite a success. I had such a great time. And that was my first experience with the Warrior Beach Retreat. And, you know, I had lunch with the veterans, and then I had the dinner when they first arrived. And then, of course, we had the main dinner. And I was so moved, Linda, because I didn't realize it's a lot of work to pull that baby off. But just the testimonials of the veterans brought us to tears. So talk about the success of that event. It was tremendous. I loved it.
It was huge. And Veronica, we can't thank you enough for helping us get it organized. Have Colonel West come, such a fine American. It was wonderful. In fact, it touched Colonel West so much, our nonprofit and our community. He said, I'm coming back every February, even if I have to park cars. Because he travels all over the country. You know, he's a big name, and he's not charging us to come. He just says, I want to be here. And we said, well, you're not parking cars next year in February. You're going to speak. So we're still trying to, you know, get the location, but the biggest thing is the impact it makes in the lives of the couples that are combat wounded that come, when they feel the love and support of not just Warrior Beach Retreat, but this community.
I think the parade was tremendous. I was literally crying during the parade. You know, so I have Alan West in my car. We got the top down. Everybody's waving, and then this woman that moved me the most was she was holding a picture of her son that had been killed in Iraq, blown up in his army uniform, and I have to say that's when I started crying. And then all the children, we passed an elementary school, and they had their little homemade flags, you know, that they'd made on paper, and it was so moving. And I think what really moved me too was one of the testimonials. It was the guy that had always. He was a dog handler, and he talked about when he came to the airport, because that was my first experience too with the red carpet. And, you know, Parker McClellan, who runs the airport, like announced Colonel West, you know, the whole airport stopped. It was, you know, it was like a Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie moment. You know, it was so like passionate. Everybody's like, what's going on? And then they're like, it's Alan West. But to the veteran, he was like, he'd never been welcomed like that before, and how it touched his heart. And that was one of the veterans that I'd had lunch with, and he can't sleep at night, you know, from PTSD, and he just doesn't ever get to sleep, you know, and so to warm their heart to know that we love them was just so moving, Linda. I was so impressed. It was just, I still get goosebumps thinking about the whole event because it was so powerful.
Well, thank you so much. And then for Colonel West to say what he did, because, you know, he goes all over the place and does so much.
Right.
For him he's never seen anything like this before. And he said, I really want to help grow your nonprofit. And with him even being here, and down the road, if he does park cars, that's fine. Just his presence, it speaks volumes to these couples that come, that he's a great American that cares so much for the men and women that have served and sacrificed. And by the way, the man that you spoke with, he actually slept during our retreat.
Oh, that's so special. Oh, he was lovely.
He was here.
Well, I love that.
Yes.
I love that. But you have to fundraise to pull this off, to host these vets and give them a weekend in a hotel, and then you covered every meal, and I mean, you do so much for them. Deep sea fishing, the women get pampered. You pulled up at the airport in a limo, and Alan West, you know, was like, "What?" And all these beautiful women popped out of the limo to say hi, you know, and then of course everybody was like, "We have a limo in Panama City?" You know, so again, Linda, you are such a rock star at the whining, caring, and dining and feeding of the wives and these husbands And to do that, you have to raise money. So you're here to talk about May 3rd, Friday, is the Indus 4th Annual Golf Tournament at Bay Point. So take it away, because this is one of your big fundraisers at Bay Point.
This is actually our biggest fundraiser of the year, and they come for a week when they come for the retreats. And it's May 3rd, and we just hope people will come. Go to industechnology.com and register, or go to our website, warriorbeachretreat.org. There's registration and sponsorship packages, single player $130, team of 4 $520, strings $25 a yard, and then of course mulligans $5 each, max of 4 players. But they have different sponsorships starting from $300 to $2,000. And the sponsorships, Eric McGregor said, make the biggest impact, because pretty much all that money goes to the nonprofit. And we ask for people to come out, golf, sponsor. It's a good time. He has lunch provided. And of course he has alcohol, but they do it reasonably, most of them. But, but it's just a lot. It's a lot of fun, and we really do need the help and support of the community, because we pay for the rooms now. Before the pandemic, they were donated. But since then, and we have 2 retreats for a week, twice a year, and then we're actually doing smaller ones. And this year we're doing 3. You go on a big retreat one time, and then you go on a smaller one time to strengthen your marriage. Because
beautiful.
Marriage is tough anyway. But when you're a combat wounded warrior, the war never leaves. It never leaves. And, I say when a soldier goes to war, a family goes to war. And we just saw our son. I actually went to Moffitt Cancer Center. I was thinking about you 2 days ago, and thankfully got a good report.
Yay.
But my son Josh was able to, he was going to the Veterans Hospital, got out the same time we did. And I said, what are you going to the Veterans Hospital down there for? He said, Mom, they're finally bringing me back my legs. And I just laughed, because for those of you that don't know, our son lost both legs above the knee in Iraq and wounded his hands. But his sense of humor is what keeps him going and is an inspiration. But we do these retreats because of what happened to our son. And we know how war touches each family of the member of the family, not just the immediate family, but, it's like a rock you throw on a pond and the ripple effect goes out. And support is needed to be given, especially to the caregivers of these heroes.
So true. And looking at your website, too, you've got enter to win the $20 truck. So I might need a new truck to pull my boat, Linda. So I'm going to have to go put some $20 down, so tell me about this truck. And it says on here it's the 7th annual. Well, I've missed 6 others of them, so I've got to get involved. This truck has my name on it. Tell us about that.
Yes. There's a group in South Florida that we get 10% of the donations, but it's for a 4-H club for kids. The rest of it goes, and it's great. Young Americans, but it's a beautiful truck, and you can pay $20 and get into the raffle. But now that you bring that up, they are going to have a raffle at this golf tournament, and one of the prizes you have to be present to win is for a $2,500 vacation anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go, and they've never done that before, and this is the 4th time Eric McGregor has done this with Indus. So. He has a heart to help us. We thank God for him. And it means a lot because, again, this is the biggest fundraiser of the year. And with this, we can do these retreats in a good way, in a nice place to put these couples. And we do it off season. People say, why are you doing these in November and February when we used to do it in September and April? I said, because the rooms are less expensive then. We do it off season. And but it's okay. You do what you have to do, because we have a waiting list for 4 years for these retreats, 4 years. And it's word of mouth. And we don't bring the same couples back. It's new couples every time. And we're local. We're not Wounded Warrior Project. We're a local charity in Bay County.
Well, it was...
I was going to ask you, is that an issue with fundraising, that people confuse you with that organization?
Yes.
Is that...
Yes. I can't tell you the people I talk to, and they say, "Oh, I support you. I send a check every month." I said, "Thank you, but you're helping another group, not us." So we always have to say we're not affiliated with Wounded Warrior Project, because so much ours has gotten so big in Bay County. People think, well, one little mama couldn't have gotten this going like this, and it's the grace of God that's helped us do that. So they think we're affiliated with a national organization. And I say, no, we are local. And there's something about being local, and we need the donations of the community at warriorbeachretreat.org to keep doing this. But yes, that's a good question. We are mistaken for them. People donate to them so often thinking they're helping us.
So does that affect you with what I call big companies, national companies or whatever? I know there's a lot of companies that donate, to charities and stuff. Is that an issue with those, or are they not really kind of in your sphere of donors?
No, they're not. No. Now, Indus is a big company that does this golf tournament, a big business that does it, but we don't have any sponsorships like, hopefully we will down the road with bigger companies wanting to support it. But most of this is grassroots America saying, I want to get behind this organization because of the impact it makes in the lives of these men and women. And I mean, these are thousands that line the parade route.
Well, it was so fun with all of their Harleys. I was ready to hop on a Harley. Yeah. It was just so powerful. And then what I also loved was the Bay County Sheriff's Office. Oh my gosh, all of them showed up and they worked so hard. And that was the first time I've ever been in with a police escort, and I really almost killed myself, Linda, because when we went to dinner, I've never been in one, and now I was driving in drove in 3 of them, and we were going to dinner, yeah. and I'm driving Alan West in my car, and I'm just like, what's going on? Because they speed up and they block the intersection, and Alan's like, go, drive, Veronica, drive. So, yeah. I thought I was in a combat trying to keep up, and so it was pretty funny. Alan's like, this is how these work. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the first time I've ever got to drive 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, Veronica's got a license to speed. You got to look out.
Go through red light. I wish I would have been in the car with you with Alan.
No, because I was like, petrified. So, but it was such a beautiful event, Linda. And so I assume you still have room for singles and teams, and we've got to rally people because this is coming up Friday, May 3rd.
Friday, May 3rd. And sponsorship, like I said, if you've got a business, want to sponsorship packages are huge. But come and be there and hang out. You go to the Bay Point Golf Club, a beautiful golf area and club. And just hang out and be there with, with the people that are there to support us. And there's a slim chance we're waiting to see, because Joshua's got 5 kids. He's so busy with all of his kids. He's in Orlando now, and we're hoping he can come. Eric doesn't even know this. We're hoping that he can come and be here. But he's got so much going on, and so we're waiting to get a final from Joshua, because he'll actually golf.
Okay.
Golf course cart.
Wow. So
but again.
Were you saying that he's actually going to get some legs?
No. He can't wear prosthetics.
Oh, he can't? Oh, okay, that's the word. Sorry, prosthetics.
He has tried his prosthetics. He has tried several times, gone to Walter Reed. But his legs are gone up so high.
Okay.
He said, Mom, there's so much to put him on. It takes forever. He said, if there's a fire, and he does jiu-jitsu, he's in perfect shape. He said, I want to be able to just get on my hands and walk out. I want to be able to just like do a handstand and walk out. No, he was joking that his real leg's coming. But no, he got his wheelchairs. His wheelchairs were falling apart. So but he just jokes like that all the time. I mean, Joshua will go in a shoe store and shop for shoes, and people are looking at him like, what? Because he's got no feet. He's got no legs, But he'll go in there, and I think it's that sense of humor. Of course, his faith in God that has gotten him through
beautiful.
This. Where, because there aren't many double amputees, especially above the knee, that survived the war. I think maybe 500 total.
Wow.
Because you lose so much blood. But he's an inspiration. If I get around my son, it's still hard for me as a mama to see him like that. But his humor, his attitude just lets me know, hey, he's okay. He's
well,
okay.
That's
you know,
it's wonderful. Yeah. Well, we want to get everybody out to the Indus golf tournament, and you can go to warriorbeachretreat.org for more information. And Linda, it's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be even around you, Veronica. You have a charisma that is dynamite. It just exudes from you. And
you're sweet.
People, when Veronica was around us, and then she would leave, people would say, "Who is she? Who is she?" They were so impressed with you. And I said, well, she's a rock star, and she's on my team. So.
Excellent.
But thank you so much. We
it's been a pleasure having Linda Cope. She is the founder of Warrior Beach Retreat, and they're having their golf tourney this Friday. So check out warriorbeachretreat.org for more information. And let's get some sponsorships, and we'll have you back, Linda. God bless you.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Veronica. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with President and CEO Patrick Chapin, and he is in charge of our Bay County Chamber, and we are so excited to host him this morning. Welcome to Veronica Live, Patrick.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
So I wanted to thank you because you came out to my billionaire event, I like to call it, at Emerald Park, and it was a billionaire funded a $50 million project, and I'd asked you to be a speaker at my event, and I wanted to just thank you because it was a fantastic speech, and the billionaire was literally wowed at the reception he got from Bay County. So I wanted to let the whole world know how much I appreciate you doing that.
Well, that was a great event, and you certainly rounded up some important people in town and around the state, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, great. And tell us, how long have you been running the chamber as the new president now?
You know, I don't know if they really have 90-day probationary periods anymore, but I better watch my step today because I'm getting close.
Okay.
And Veronica, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts and seen the people you've interviewed, and you're willing to risk your reputation on some knucklehead like me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm super excited to have you on because, as I tell people, the chamber is a power player in our community. And I'm actually a Leadership Bay graduate. So when I was running a PR company for a couple years, I got to go to Leadership Bay. And I remember Congressman Sutherland, our former congressman here, came and he said, if you're not part of the chamber and you don't have the chamber sticker on your business, I don't go into your business. And
he needs to enter the Chamber of Commerce world. He's great.
Well, that's what he was saying about our Bay County Chamber. And so you all are a power player. And that was what was so beautiful is at this event with the fancy billionaire from New York that has invested in our community is, Tamara shows up with your ambassadors and everybody feels so welcome. So it's just great. But tell us about who you are, Patrick, and where you came from. And I see that you're an FSU grad, so okay, because I'm a Gator mom and a Hurricane mom.
That's okay, Patrick. I'm an FSU grad, so
Well, I've matured over the years. We've even let a few Gators into our family, so no Hurricanes. I'm sorry, we haven't got to that point yet. But yeah, I'm a Central Floridian. I'm an Orlandoan.
Okay.
Family's deep roots there. Been around way before Disney and the rest of the good stuff and the challenging stuff. But went to Florida State. My sort of formative career years was with Disney. I was there over 10 years, and some interesting opportunities there. Ended up in Sydney for a project during the Olympic Games, which kind of set me on a different course. Yeah,
okay.
It was amazing. And then I came back, and I know this isn't the Patrick Chapin live show, but did Disney, came back, took a year off. My wife and I left Disney and went around the world for a year in '03 and '04.
Oh my goodness!
And then got into kind of the chamber world for about 5 years. I ran one of the largest YMCA's in the Southeast down in Sarasota, and then Winter Park Chamber of Commerce, got recruited up to High Point, North Carolina, for a Chamber of Commerce job there. And then I felt the urge to get my gills back near the salt water and the sunshine, and ended up here, just 2 or 3 months ago.
Well, welcome. And what were your takeaways with working for Disney? Because, that's like a huge entity in our world, and I can't even imagine. That would be a dream job, working for Disney.
It was pretty amazing. I think a couple takeaways. Fortunately, and I think it really did set kind of into my DNA is mentorship. My mentor was the head of Epcot at the time and became the president of Walt Disney World. And I was fortunate enough to be around some really creative people, and learned, what a culture of an organization is, and just the collaboration it takes across departments. One funny thing or interesting thing is, and then I could get into some leadership skills and that sort of thing, but I learned from the famous Walt Disney, one of his quotes. Everyone thinks, the customer's always right. And one of his actual quotes is, the customer isn't always right, but you have to allow him or her to be wrong with dignity. So That was kind of a funny takeaway. But yeah, I was very fortunate. I was in leadership. I was in international programs. We ran a leadership program with the international students. And then I was in international sponsorship development, traveled around the world, and ended up heading up a project during the Olympic Games.
Wow, that's so funny, because I've been to Sydney, and I actually toured all of the Olympic stuff on my trip there. That was one of the little tourist trips you would take to see how cool it was. So, that's so neat. And then tell me about traveling around the world. I mean, who gets to do that? What were your favorite countries? And I've lived and traveled all over the world, but I mean, to just stop working and to go travel around the world, that's incredible. That's a dream.
Yeah. I've got an amazing wife. I think my parents set the tone when I was at Florida State. It was football season, and they said, we really want you to go to Florence, Italy, and study for a semester. And I'm like, no way. Even though we weren't very good in football, I wanted to stick around. At the time, we weren't very good. But I went to Florence and studied, and just got the travel bug. So when I went to Sydney and a lot of Europe with Disney and Japan and so forth, but my wife and I came back, and we just really felt like, rather than climb the corporate ladder, we wanted to do some other things. So we moved into a tiny little apartment and saved every penny, and left and didn't have a place to stay any night. We flew in and out of a continent or country, continent, and kind of free-willed it, but went through South America, a big part of Africa, India, Nepal, all through Southeast Asia. So it was an amazing experience. I sort of say it was basically my master's, because that's what it cost, but it was a life experience. I think maybe gave me some value that an MBA wouldn't. But we had some interesting times. We got robbed, I think, our second week in Ecuador, and we're like, what are we doing? We got so we got robbed. We got amoebic. I got amoebic dysentery in Nepal. We got held up by Maoist rebels in Nepal. We were on a 2-week hike. Yeah, with AK-47s, but they were smart enough to know that you don't shoot the person who lays the golden egg. So we generously gave them a donation. I'm using air quotes. So it He was an amazing experience.
Well, I can't wait to read your book because, these are like, this requires a night at the bar, drinking and talking about all of these incredible stories. Was there one country that's your favorite? I mean, I really enjoyed my trip to Sydney, I have to say. And I adore Japan.
Amazing. Yeah. Sydney was an amazing experience. And I think our favorite was Vietnam.
Really?
My father-in-law was a Green Beret, served 2 tours. So we started in Hanoi and went south through the country for 30 days, as long as you could.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was reading the history of the Green Berets book at the time. And my father-in-law never really talked about, his time over there. He said the people were great except for the ones who were trying to shoot at him. But at one point he emailed me some of his missions, and not to go too far into it, but I don't know, some of your listeners probably remember the A-Team.
Yeah.
And I never knew that the A-Team is basically, you have A, B, and C. So C is a big compound, B, a big base. B mission is a little bit smaller, maybe a group of 50 people. And then A-Team is really, you go out and get with the Montagnards in this case, and it's a team of maybe 8 people. So A-Team is really a small group that goes out with indigenous people. And he had lots of A missions, and he gave a number to them and told me about them. And he didn't tell me about them. He just gave me the mission numbers. And I looked up one of them, and I turned into the book, and the first sentence was one of the fiercest battles of the history of the Green Berets in Vietnam. He never talked about it. He never, said anything about it. But
what a humble man.
It was a real American hero. But it was a beautiful experience. The people were great. It was Christmas Eve in Hue. Went to a Catholic mass. We couldn't understand a thing, but lots of great memories.
Incredible. Well, and I want to talk about, and we're going to get into the chamber, but we're getting to know you, and you're so interesting. But you're a 5-time Ironman, multiple marathon, and oh dear Lord, ultra marathon. I don't even know. Is that like running 100 miles or more? I don't even know. You have to tell us what that is. You have climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and then Ojos de Saldo, which Ojos is eyes in Spanish. So that I was going to look that up, but I'm like, I'll just ask him where that is.
Yeah, Ojos del Salado is eyes of salt, so tears. And that's what I felt like when I climbed.
And what country was that? Where was that?
That's in Chile.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in Chile. It's the highest volcano in the world.
Oh my goodness! And then Mount Kilimanjaro. How was that?
It was not as hard as Ojos del Salado, I'll say. It was not extremely difficult. My father, who's no longer with us, but he's a great, great man. He was, I think, 74 and wanted to climb it, so I went with him. And the key to that is you just take your time. Because
of the altitude, right?
The altitude, yeah. You've got to acclimatize. So we did that the right way. The Ojos climb was over about 2.5 weeks, so it was a little bit
and that was
serious.
My question was, how long does it take to climb these things?
Yeah, Kilimanjaro is not that dramatic. I mean, it's difficult. The Ojos del Salado, you do a lot of acclimatizing. So we probably had 10 climbs over the height of Kilimanjaro. You go up and come down, go up and come down, and then you make the final push. It's not an Everest. Let me make sure that, it's not a big deal, but there's a little bit of technical stuff. And I'm a Florida boy, so, an overpass is a mountain to me. So
I just say I like to ski, and I like go out to Snowmass out in Colorado. That's 12,000 feet, and I'm up there like sucking air like nothing.
Right. Yes, I've done that at Breck. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So how do you train for something like this? I mean, obviously you're an ultra marathoner. So is that then it makes it climbing a mountain easy, Patrick?
No, actually, what they say is you could be a smoker and sort of out of shape and summit Kilimanjaro, or you could be an Ironman and not. It just depends. Some people are, again, for a flatlander, I've got some weird oxygen lung capacity that helps. And I won't, again, I don't want to talk about myself, but there's two things I'd like to talk about. And one is the reason I do that sort of things is I had a niece. She passed away. My younger brother, his oldest daughter, was born, and we didn't know it at the time. It's called Sanfilippo syndrome. There's probably 100 kids that are born with it each year. Don't look it up unless you have a tissue near you, but you're basically born completely normal. 3 or 4 years, you start looking like you may have autism, and then everything pretty much shuts down. Most kids, live to be about 10 or 11 or 12. She lived to be 17. But at the end, it's just not, it's not a good issue, but it's very rare. And not many people knew about it. So I had a courage flag with her name and some other kids' names, and I would take them on all these adventures and raise awareness. My family my younger brother created something called Sing for Blair, because even though she was basically a 1-year-old or a toddler, in terms of mental capacity, she would light up when people sang to her. So Roger got Jimmy Buffett to sing for her, and Christina Perry and some Broadway stars, and raised a ton of money. And then my other niece, her sister, would do purple lemonade stands when I think she started when she was about 6 or 7 years old and did that for about 10 years. And what do you think of, a lemonade stand for someone like our Special Blair would raise on a Saturday afternoon in the spring in Central Florida? Take a guess.
I have no idea.
$500?
I think we'd average about somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Outstanding! That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So Blair, even though we had this incredibly difficult situation that you wouldn't wish on anyone, she impacted the lives of so many people, so I played a tiny part. And to your question of how do you do that and the difficulty, I always it was a strange. I took on the pain because I felt like it was relieving the pain of my brother and others. So I had a special reason to do it. But thank you for letting me share that story.
No, that's gorgeous.
Luckily, through a lot of
touches our heart.
I think, and it's a little bit more. People are aware of it now. There's not anything you can really do about it necessarily, but at least you can identify it early on. So again, thanks for letting me share that.
So back to the ultra marathon, like, is that more than 100 miles over like a day or two, or what is that?
Yeah. I mean, technically I think an ultra is anything over a marathon. The most I've done is 50. But probably my hardest thing I've ever done is I ran. Again, this is for Blair. I carried the flag the whole time. I ran, it's called rim to rim to rim. So you start on one side of the Grand Canyon, you run down, over, up, you get to the other side, you run, and then you return. So you go back down, over, and across. It's usually 45, 50 miles. If you hike it, it takes about 4 or 5 days. If you run it, depending on how strong you are, it took me, I think, 15 hours. So that was, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do anything like that again, but
that's incredible. So are you still athletic at this level, Patrick? Is this just part of you?
I'm staying out on the beach, and I tell you, this soft sand is doing me in on my run.
You mean the Ironman is not on your list here?
I'd like to do. Well, I've signed up for New York Marathon this year.
Oh, wow.
My goal, and if I say it out loud, I'm going to have to do it. But my goal is, I've done Ironman, the Panama City Ironman, and I know you're going to ask me, but we'll get into it again. It's the only second thing I want to talk about. But next year will be my 10-year anniversary of donating kidneys, so I'd love to do an Ironman.
Yeah, well, that was the next
thing.
Ironman. That was the next. And how old, Patrick? How old are you to be able to?
I'm mid-50s. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and you're still beating yourself up like this. Oh my gosh. Wow, you're tough. I have a new knee. It would not, I can't even, no. Okay. But
that's probably in my future.
well, the surgeons at Andrews Institute, two of them, I had 2 surgeries, and I just told them I was trying to just be an Olympic TJ Maxx shopper was my goal with the new knee. So, and we're there.
Yeah, and now I know where to get my next coach.
Yeah. But the most important thing on your bio is that you are a kidney donor. And so, because General McQueen also donated a kidney to somebody in his church. So how did you become a kidney donor? Who has your kidney? And what's amazing is that you're still able to put your body through, these ultra marathons on one kidney. So talk about that.
Yeah, again, thank you. It's not about me, but it is an important issue I like to talk about. So in Winter Park, there was, I didn't really know her that well. She was a banker in town, and she was actually in my leadership class. So Leadership Winter Park. And we had a pretty big class, and I knew her a little bit, but we're Facebook friends, and she just began to post how sick her husband was. I hadn't met him, didn't know him, but I went and got tested, and we were almost a perfect match. So he was a former Marine, and I just felt compelled and held that courage flag up going into the operating room. And it really is, it is not a big deal. It's funny. I talked to Mark about it, and I almost started tearing up. I'm like, you're such a hero, but when people talk to me, it's like, it's nothing. It's 2 days. I ran a 10K like 6 weeks later. You have a little incision. But it totally changed his life. He walked in my room 24 hours afterwards, and he looked like a brand new man.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
He's doing great. Dave is his name. And he's gotten into travel, and he just got back from Scotland. So now my other kidney, because I haven't been to Scotland, has been to more countries than me. I've been to like 55 countries. Yeah, so now my other kidney's been to 56. So.
Okay. Well, I know where your next vacation is.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Got to keep up with the other kidney, right?
Well, you are the president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber, and I'm just a tremendous fan. I'm part of the Military Affairs Committee, and people always, Amy always asks me to deliver a prayer, which I love to do. So I wanted to talk about this mission of the chamber, because it is so bold, and everybody, you guys have the first Fridays, and so tell me, how you're feeling taking over this organization. It's a strong organization, with, you've got so many great people that I love. Tamara and I love Amy. There's just so many great people there. So
and you have some pretty big shoes to fill there. Carol Roberts. I mean, she was a powerhouse.
If I had $1 for every time someone said that, I probably would already be gone and tired.
You'd be on your next world adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Carol has done an amazing job, and I think she was with the chamber 46 years, and maybe CEO for 25 or somewhere around that. So definitely big shoes to fill. Laid an incredible foundation. It's been very exciting. Humbling. The people throughout the community have been just extremely welcoming. It's a little bit different chamber than I've run in the sense that it's a little bit more regional. Winter Park was kind of Winter Park centric, and High Point was a little bit more community centric. This one and the attraction really was the kind of the leader among leaders. Getting out there. The board is fantastic. And identifying big issues in the community, and being, the convener, and being at the table and trying to fix or address some of these big topics in our community. And we can certainly get into that. The infrastructure surtax is kind of on the radar, but when we went to my first Friday, and that's not a stutter, it's the first Friday I went to. And a typical event like that in Winter Park, Florida, was the number one chamber in Florida back when, would probably have maybe 70 or 80 or 100 people. And I walked in there and there was over 300 people. So it's a testament to the hard work of the board and the staff and Carol's leadership. So it's really an exciting time to be part of this, and an exciting time to be in the Panhandle and Dade County.
Patrick, one thing I want to ask you about chambers, because you've had exposure to other chambers. My experience with the Bay County Chamber is it's not just a business organization, it's a social organization also, I think, which is why you have so much support and such huge turnout. Is that the norm or what you've seen in other chambers, or is it just are they more business focused type operations?
That's a great question. It is. So when I was interviewed, I said, "Is this do you have a separate economic development agency?" And they said yes. And I said, "Okay, good," because I don't want to. I'm certainly here to support bringing business, but in High Point, the EDA was within City Hall. In Winter Park, the EDC was within City Hall. So we are, and of course here it's separate. So it gives us a flexibility to be a little bit more social in a degree. I mean, I like to say it's a chamber of community as much as a chamber of commerce. We do bring people together. There's a famous, I don't know how famous he is, but it's an urban sociologist. His name is going to slip my mind, but he talks about third place. So first place is your home, second place is work, and third place, we've kind of lost these third places. So back in the day would be the town hall or the corner, the bowling alley, or maybe the corner pub where people would come together. And especially with COVID, we've lost these third places. So now people leave their home, if they even leave their home, and go to work and go through the drive-thru and back home. The chamber is a third place. So we bring people together who probably wouldn't otherwise come together. You may not see your friends at the chamber at church or in your neighborhood. My third place is Rotary and the YMCA, because I know I'm going to be around people I just don't otherwise see. And that's what that was the appeal to your question, is that we are, that third place. We do the big stuff, which is really important, and it drives the success of our community and the well-being of our community. But we also are there to create, relationship and social capital and that sort of thing.
So, Patrick, I assume you're still fact-finding how you want to run the chamber. Are there any new visions or goals that you want to grow here, or you're just going to steer the ship and see how it goes and then decide?
Well, I figure we'll just change the name first. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing yeah, exactly. Wait, let's have that conversation on my 91st day. No, I'm doing a lot of listening, a lot of learning. I think, I know I was brought in as an outsider for a reason. When I moved to High Point, I literally didn't know a soul. When I moved here, I literally didn't know a soul. And I think there's some advantages to have some eyes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but no, nothing dramatic. Certainly, I mean, again, the foundation of this organization is like no other. I think there's some things we can tweak in terms of the way we communicate. I'd like to figure out how we can, update some stuff via, social media and websites and e-newsletters and that sort of thing. We do an amazing job with our events. The staff is fantastic. I can tell you that no other chamber that I'm aware of has the participation and the commitment of both the ambassadors. I mean, we have over 100 ambassadors. You're lucky if you have 15. And then the engagement of our board is actually unlike any other board I've ever seen. So, again, that's the culture of the organization that you just don't see anywhere else. So I've got a lot of great things to work with. And, I'm going to learn as I kind of get my bearings here in Bay County.
Well, I was going to ask you, because when you came to my event, I was blessed that CFO Petronas said he would do my event. And I know Tamara was like, we've got to make sure Patrick meets CFO. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do that. So how has and then of course the CFO was like, oh, Patrick's here, so how has your reception been meeting all these community leaders and movers and shakers? Because our movers and shakers, Senator Scott shows up, and like Senator Trumbull shows up, Congressman Dunn. We've got power players that do participate in our chamber. So how's your reception been meeting everybody?
Humbling. It really has. It's been, I'm not one to get butterflies, but it's certainly fun to meet our elected officials and also just the great leadership. When I came here to interview, I just felt this sense of movement, positivity. It's, Bay County's still the size that you can literally get around the table, with the superintendent and our congressmen and our elected officials and the hospital and the chamber guy or lady and get stuff done. So there's seems to be a real commitment where there isn't a lot of sharp elbows. People aren't trying to take credit for something. There's a collective kind of movement to take advantage of the wonderful things here. It's been a lot of fun. I've been around my share of elected officials, and I really appreciate their commitment, especially in today's world. It's a tough time. Congressman Dunn has been just really extraordinary to me. He's just such a wonderful person. So it's been fun to see him out and about.
So Patrick, one of the interesting things about Bay County, we're kind of going through this transformation phase. There's been a lot of growth. There's a huge amount of building going on as far as apartments and that type of stuff. Not only on the beach, but you have Margaritaville being developed, and then up 231, there's developments going in all over the place, and so we have a lot of people coming in, and I think the Panama City Beach mayor's election was a good example of newcomers versus people that have been here a long time and want the status quo. And I'm just curious, you came from the Kissimmee area in Orlando, and you've seen the explosive growth in those kind of areas. Is that what's on the future for Bay County? Is it going to be different, or it's just so many people coming in? It's going to transform the area for sure.
Yeah. To touch on your first point, I've gone to city commission, county commission meetings. The election was an example. There's a lot of things I've seen where you can say insert city. It seems outlandish at times, some of the things that are going on. But the pendulum swings one way and it comes back. And I think that experience, that I've had, maybe not always the most fortunate experience, but especially in communities where, it's sort of, we don't want growth. The chamber is going to pave our parks and that sort of thing, which obviously isn't the case. But to be able to know that and kind of get through it, and having people, the amount of letters to the editors and the comments when they start going down, there's nothing sweeter, because you're succeeding. In terms of growth, the big advantage, without a doubt, is that there's I don't think it'll be as explosive. Obviously, you don't have a Walt Disney World coming in. You have the advantage of people, again, being around the table who can look forward and think in advance of kind of somewhat of a master plan, and get ahead of it. So there's not, I hope, urban sprawl like there is in other places in the state and elsewhere. So I think there's going to be a little bit more ability to throttle, back and throttle up. And the St. Joe Company obviously is doing a great job. So I'm very optimistic that it's certainly going to grow. There's huge opportunities. I went to the Florida Power Symposium when I first arrived, and the conversations around the opportunities here in the Panhandle are just dramatic. And you think about it, where else are you going to go if you're either moving here or thinking about relocating? There's not much, left in this state. So we have the ability and the leadership in this community to kind of control it. So I'm completely optimistic that there's going to be done with a little bit more care and thoughtfulness. My mom was an elected official back in the day when it was nonpartisan, and she was the first mayor of Orange County. So she was a county commissioner, and then they changed the charter and made it a strong mayor. So she was elected, basically the CEO of Orange County, and served that for a couple terms and clerk of the court. And I'm real proud of her. She was sort of a pioneer in terms of, women. And so she was in, I saw it through her eyes. She had that was sort of, I guess, the 90s, early 2000s. So explosive growth in Orange County. And, there's some good things that happened, and there were some, really challenging things that happened. But if you notice, I'm living in Bay County, not Orange County. So that might tell you something.
So does the chamber profile the new people coming in? I mean, Orlando, pretty well, it's a tourist-driven economy, okay? So, you've got, obviously, Disney, Universal, all that kind of stuff down there. That's the primary business of people that are coming in, service industry, that type of stuff. What's coming to Bay County? I mean, I see all this development going on, and I see all these apartment buildings and condos filling up. Who are those people? I mean, we don't have an industry here other than tourism.
Which, Patrick, I've been saying for 10 years, we need a little mini Disney. Or I'm always pro casino because I lived in Vegas. I know that freaks out Floridians, but I would love something like that because it brings good restaurants. It brings entertainment. So do we have a casino coming in?
I'm not touching that. And I'm looking at my Disney World right now as I look out my condo window at the beautiful beaches. I think certainly knowing Orlando is very transient, so people are coming and going. My intuition, again, what do I know? I've been here 3 months, is people are moving here because it's just a great place to live. There's the quality of life. People, certainly COVID, people were leaving the big cities. I've heard, and don't quote me, but Bay County is like one of the top 10 growth areas post-COVID that
true.
People are relocating to. I think number 8 in the state. And with the great work that the EDA, Becca, and Ben over there are doing to attract, companies, and the Southern Sky Aviation was an example. They did a ribbon cutting this week. Our airport with Parker McLennan over there. So there's definitely businesses coming and some advanced type of organizations and companies. So there are people moving here associated with companies that are fortunately high wage companies. But also I do think people are just coming here for the quality of life.
Oh, that's excellent. So what's your leadership style that you're bringing to the chamber?
I'm a pretty, a pretty laid back. I'm not. I'm kind of a flat line egalitarian leader. So, there's not a real hierarchy. I'll speak to 300 or 400 people, and then back up the pickup truck and load the coolers into it. That's just the Disney way. You pick up. I saw my, president of or vice president of Epcot picking up trash, and darn it, I can't help myself but pick up trash in public. So when I'm walking through, it's been a curse. I think I'm still, sprinkling pixie dust on me. But yeah, it's really just doing anything that your staff would do. We had, nice. I'm sure there's a more hip, cool word nowadays, but we always talked about alignment at Disney, and alignment is really just the culture of, understanding your mission and your goals. At Disney was creating the most magical experience for your guests. And how you do that is different, right? The housekeeper might make Mickey ears with the towels and leave it on the bed, and the kids get excited. My role, bringing international students to work at Epcot, was different. My boss was, big picture, driving big issues. But we all knew that the goal was to create a most magical experience for our guests. We just did it differently. So I feel very strongly that's what's happening in our chamber. Whether it's Tamara, Elizabeth, Amy, they're all here to serve and make this community better, and they're doing it in just different ways. So I'm really excited about that.
And do you have a motto that you roll with?
Gosh, I don't think I have a real motto. I think if you ask people that have worked with me over the years, they would probably say there's not a lot of difference between Patrick, the leader, and Patrick, the person. It's hard for me to tell the difference. I am who I am, and I'm fortunate to have been raised with some good values and had great mentors along the way. So, one other quick thing it just popped in my head that is kind of a something I learned at Disney and has been, again, part of who I am. And I was sitting in a room. They were planning the Millennium Celebration. So I'm in the room literally with the Imagineers and the head of Disney and my boss, and they're storyboarding what they're going to do for the biggest event, and I'm blending into the wall. Like, please don't acknowledge me. I'm in my 30s. Don't, I'm looking down, and my George Calagridis turned to me and said, "Well, Patrick, what do you think?" And I mean, thank goodness I don't remember what I said, because I'm sure it was idiotic, and I would probably still break out in sweats if I remembered it. But it was an incredibly valuable lesson in making sure that you engage other people and staff, and understand that we all have different voices. If you don't ask someone, like, I'll have an intern, and the intern maybe doesn't have the experience or the confidence to speak up. So to ask the question and get their input, there's some really creative and interesting and helpful information you can get. I had a person on my team in High Point who's just really creative but quiet. So unless you asked her, hey, what do you think? She wouldn't necessarily speak up. So yeah, getting back to kind of my leadership style, that's just something is that inclusiveness is really trying to engage everyone in the room, around the table, because we all have something to contribute. It's just we do it differently.
Nice. It's interesting. I found that most successful organizations, that the leader comes from a servant leadership and understands humility. And I know, and it's interesting the way you talked about the Disney model. Waffle House is the exact same way. I've heard the president of Waffle House went into a bathroom in one of their Waffle Houses, and it was dirty, and he went and got stuff and started cleaning it. It was not beneath him to go in, and no job in that company was beneath him, because even though he was the president, and that's the kind of leadership that inspires people, actually.
Well, I was inspired by my team this week. We had someone break their foot, and she couldn't get around, and she also on the weekends helps tidy up the place. So we all chipped in. I cleaned up the men's room. Luckily, there's only one man in the building. But we all took care of our we all took out the trash, and because we knew she wasn't going to be able to come in this weekend. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've done these personality tests, and at Disney, they're trying to figure out, who is this guy Patrick, and he's a rising star. And I had this real in-depth. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put me on the couch and or kick me out of Main Street. But in applying for the job in Winter Park, applying for the job in High Point, you get these psycho kind of analysis of your leadership style. And one thing that it sounds really weird even to say, but I have very, very low ego. So, and it sounds weird because someone who has no ego would probably not say you have a low ego, but it is I don't need to be the center of attention. I am there to get the job done, and so it's a good place to be in my mind, because if you're worried about being the top dog in the room, or you're worried about this or that, you're not focused on the job in front of you. So, it's a quality that I inherited. It's not anything I developed. So I'm fortunate.
Well, that's nice. Patrick, what about the legislative affairs? You were talking about there's some new movement there.
Yes, very, very important. Each year the Bay County Chamber gets together the community leaders, and they come up with kind of their business plan. And this year, the four key areas are affordable access to children, childcare, infrastructure surtax renewal, workforce development, and then the event center downtown in Panama City. The one that's top of the radar, middle of the radar, top of the list, however you want to say it, is the infrastructure surtax renewal. So in 2016, Bay County residents supported an infrastructure surtax. It's a half-penny surtax, and the money raised goes to support, redoing roads, bridges, stormwater issues. And it passed, I think, by 10 points back in 2016. And it was due to sunset in 2 years. So it was a 10-year initiative. But the leaders have decided to put on the ballot this November. And so the chamber is driving that initiative of getting that passed. I've heard that before that surtax, the county, and I'm not even talking about the municipalities, that the county only had like $2 or $3 million to do these infrastructure projects. In 2024, just the county, I think, has raised through this surtax about $17 million. Overall, I believe, the municipalities on top of that was about $13 million. So $30 million has been raised and you've seen the projects. I mean, it's remarkable, the projects that are happening in everybody's neighborhood. The nice thing about this surtax is a half-penny surtax is almost 50% of it is paid by visitors to our community. So they're using our roads, and they're helping keep those roads up with the surtax. So the chamber has a political action committee. I have some experience in creating and driving PACs, and we're going to drive this initiative. We just did polling of our members on Thursday. We're still getting results, but so far, we've got hundreds of results already, and we're at 88%. I checked this morning in favor of it.
Okay.
They're informed people, and then we have a public poll going on right now of Bay County residents with a firm in Tallahassee. We'll have those results, coming up in the next week or two to help us understand, are people aware of the issue? What parts of the infrastructure surtax are important to them? So we're going to be out there raising money and get this thing passed again because, I mentioned $30 million. The other huge advantage is our community's been able to leverage those dollars. As you both know, if you go to Tallahassee or to the feds and you ask for, support financially, and you hold out your hand, it's not always able to get those funds. But when you go with them and you say, we've got a $5 million project and here's $1 million we're going to contribute, you're more likely to get that funding. So we've been able to leverage that $30 million revenue stream into about $100 million of projects. So,
excellent.
Again, the county itself, and I just know it because I'm a little bit more focused on the county, but we've already completed over 60 projects worth about $100 million. So it's really important for our community. To your earlier question about growth, as more people come, we need to have the infrastructure to take care of them. And it's also a public safety issue. That money will help that as well. So super, super important.
So I wanted to ask you because this Friday, we've got the air show is going to be over the beach. I've been here 10 years. We've never had an air show with airplanes flying over the beach. And the MAC is actually, the Military Affairs Committee is hosting a reception for all of the folks flying in. And I will be there. I'm so excited. But you just got to go on a civic leader tour, and the love of the chamber and the military with the chamber. There's this excellent relationship between the two. So I wanted you to talk about your experience, because what a cool trip you got to do.
I'm literally getting chills. And not only about the trip, but about this relationship. The Military Affairs Committee, I've never had the experience. I mean, we don't have a base in Central Florida. And I'm like I'm an 8th grade schoolboy. When I hear those jets, I'm still going outside, videoing and sending it to my brothers.
Me too. And I've been, on a flight line for 55 years. It's so fun.
It is just amazing. And through the efforts of MAC and great leaders like Tom Neubauer and
he's fabulous. Yes. Love them.
We probably owe them the fact that we're, having Tyndall be the next sort of the base of the future with that $6 billion makeover. Yeah. And of course, our military installations here, I think, contribute well over 35, maybe 40% of our economy. So, it's one of the things that is extraordinary about this community is the appreciation of our military. And it'll be my first air show ever. You'll get to meet the Thunderbirds on Friday night.
I can't wait because they're all gorgeous. I used to do Thunderbird work, so I'm getting my picture with all of them, Patrick.
Well, if they're gorgeous, I'm going to get my picture with them too.
You're waiting behind me. I'm first.
Amy on our team, who
I love Amy.
Our government affairs,
yes,
and our military affairs, she's a superstar. She and I are on this small committee who, are supporting putting on this air show. And I'll get to your question about my trip, but we're sitting in the room every Tuesday, and there's about 10 of us, and 2 of them are fighter pilots. One of them was a Thunderbird, and I can barely control myself. I know I'm like that 30-year-old in the corner, sounding like an idiot because I'm like, tell me about what it's like. It's like, Patrick, we're trying to, put on a 30,000 person air show. Can you quit asking the guy what it's like to fly a fighter pilot? But yeah, I was fortunate enough to go on a civic leaders trip just about a few weeks ago, and it was up to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We flew. This is unbelievable. We flew on a KC-135, so that's a refueling.
The gas
plane.
Feels, mm-hmm.
And we got to experience refueling F-35s. So we got to watch F-35s fly on each, in pairs on our wings, and then they get behind us, and we refueled the F-35s. It was, I've done some pretty amazing things, when you throw in Disney and in High Point, we were able to do a $50 million revitalization project that we were able to drive. And I tell you, I sent pictures to all my old friends at all these former jobs. I'm like, I get it. Pixie dust, pretty good. I just watched an F-35 get refueled. So
gas station in the air.
Exactly.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're loving the job.
Well, that's what I like to say about the F-22 demos. It's like you watch that and it's like, oh, that's amazing. I say, yeah, that's what $400 million will do for you.
Exactly.
Well, what are we missing, Patrick? I'm just so excited that you're at the helm, and I can tell you're going to be a cheerleader for Bay County, because I know our slogan is "Together We're Building a Better Bay County," but I want to get past the building part, because we're leading the way. So, what are we missing today?
Just. I think you can tell I'm excited. I'm excited about the people I've been able to meet. I'm thrilled with some of our younger leaders that are in the community who are up and coming and are going to be superstars. And our partnerships with BCCA, the Contracts Association, with CPAR, the realtors, they're both playing a really big part in the surtax renewal. So, I think we've touched on a lot. I'm fortunate and unfortunate. My family is still up in High Point, my wife and daughter. It's allowed me to really be focused.
Okay.
They haven't moved down yet. So it's allowed me to be really focused, and so we'll get them down here soon, get relocated and get settled. But I'm going to work really hard for you all, and both of you have been fantastic to me and supportive and fun. So we're going to get a lot accomplished and have some fun along the way.
Well, it's been a pleasure hosting you, Patrick, and we want you to be a regular. So when there's things that are happening, you need to let us know. And we've been talking today with Patrick Chapin, and he is the new president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber. And I know your future is just so bright, Patrick. And it's been such a pleasure having you on Veronica Live this morning.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a ton of fun, and thanks for letting me share what's going on, not only in my life, but in the community.
And we will see you at the air show. So we will be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are here with our next guest, and it is our brand new mayor of Panama City Beach, and it's Mayor Stuart Tettemer. And you've been the mayor for, I think, about 48 hours, Mayor? How long has it been? Welcome to Veronica Live.
Thanks, Veronica, and thanks, John. Yeah, just got sworn in on Thursday, so it's been quite the whirlwind after a bit of a long campaign.
Well, congratulations. And that was the thing. I wanted to have you on as our new mayor because, I wasn't tracking the race. I thought it was going to be this Mayor Sheldon thing, and everybody was behind Mayor Sheldon. And plus, I can't vote in that mayoral race. And then you emerged victorious. So tell us about the campaign. And, this is you've already had a commission, I guess, a meeting, and you're pushing forward all kinds of things. So tell us about the campaign and how long, when did you decide to run, I guess is the question. We'll start there.
Well, a week or two before. So I've been involved in some local neighborhood politics involving the CRA, and kind of went just back to normal private life, I work with some local ministries here, and was finishing up my parents' house. Knew the election was coming up, and saw the state of the race, the state of the candidates, and we had two city council positions running unopposed, and then the mayoral's race, and it just didn't look like there was a strong option there. So looked around. I had actually been asked by a few people to run, and I laughed them off. It's just like I'm not political really at all. I'm mostly just focused on my neighbors and family. But I cared about the way that people here are treated. I cared about making sure that the city government is working for everyone who lives here. And so I decided if I cared that much, I'd throw my hat in the ring. I got in about 2 days before the deadline, Wednesday, and the deadline was Friday. So a bit of a late start, had zero planning for the campaign. So had to get off quickly. I have a background in startups, technology startups. So that really prepared me for doing a lot of different things very quickly. I also had a good community around me of volunteers who were willing to help and offer their services. So we just took to hit the ground running as quickly as possible. There's a lot of stuff involved in running a political campaign, even at a local race. And I was my own campaign manager. I obviously had advice and help and, did some contracting for some services. But, just had to learn a lot and move quickly and adjust. One of the beautiful parts about campaigning in this area is it's pure retail politics. You knock on a lot of doors, talk to a lot of people, and in fact, didn't develop the campaign platform until a couple weeks into the race after talking to a bunch of people. And that's why I think we had such a strong showing is I made sure to touch on the issues that mattered most to people who lived here. One, obviously, is traffic. Another one is some of these local infrastructure projects. Beach access is also very important. And each neighborhood also has their own individual needs that need to be addressed. And finally, we have great arts and culture here. And so highlighting those also became an important plank of the platform.
So is that when you came up with your slogan, putting locals first, is after meeting with all of these people?
The actual phrase took some development because, political phrases have to be pretty short. They have to fit on a sign.
Right.
But the idea of taking care of constituents is just common sense politics.
Right.
And a lot of folks felt like they weren't being taken care of, that this was a visitor first, resident second area. And so, putting locals first was the initial idea. The phrase came in about a week or so in, after trying to get it short enough to fit and convey the message with a nice punch.
It's interesting that you didn't develop your campaign platform until after you went out and started talking to people. Because usually it's the other way around.
What month did you start, Patrick? Stuart?
I'm sorry, say again?
When did you start the campaign? When did you start hitting?
Right afterwards. So that was like mid-February.
Okay.
I'd come to understand, my impression of campaigns had been you run a bunch of TV ads and, do text messaging and stuff like that. And we did do TV ads and text messaging later on in the campaign, but that's not local race politics. Local race politics is talking to people. And so, the impetus was always putting the people who live here first, but part of putting them first is listening to them. And that's one of the things I think was missing in terms of the way people felt like their local government was interacting with them. And so, it started by listening and talking to people. The initial one was, the high cost of living here. So doing what we can to reduce taxes. So that's how I started off, just basic, good, small government politics. And then that's still an important part of the platform, but individual neighborhood needs and individual needs took precedence after we talked to people.
I'm just curious, we've had a lot of growth on Panama City Beach and just as way of background, I ran for county commission twice, so I've been through the drill. Okay.
You poor thing.
Yeah. And much like you, I self-funded my campaigns. So, I didn't.
Me too.
I was not willing to go I actually talked to the big boys, but, wasn't willing to do what was required to get their money. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
But the nature of Panama City beaches is changed. I've lived here 45 years, And I know at one time, you kind of had like the West Enders versus, basically the tourist business beach types, from residents versus tourist business based companies. And we've got so much growth out there with all this new housing, and I'm presuming there are a lot of retirees coming in and stuff. Is that did you see that when you were out talking to folks that maybe there's a mix of people that are anti-growth, because that's the way we like the small beach, and then there's other people that are like, hey, we wanted to come to this vibrant community because of the growth.
Yeah, the electorate out here is actually heavily skews retired. So there are a lot of people who moved here for quality of life, and that's what they care about. That's what they focus on. This is a great place to live, and it's a great place to live both because of the natural surroundings, but it's also a great place to live because of the community and because of the people here. And so people liked that small town feel. There is anti-growth sentiment. I grew up in Florida. Growth is a part of life in this state. We went from being the fourth largest state in the most recent census. We're the third largest state in terms of population. So growth is a part of life. When I went away to college, and I would come back for winter break every year. And I'm from Kissimmee, Florida. Every year there seemed to be a new development, a new subdivision, and so growth is a part of life here. And the question is, how do we make sure to build infrastructure and manage the growth, and make sure that we're not just growing for the sake of growing. And so you can't stop growth, but you can plan for it, and you can try to make sure that we don't destroy quality of life while an area grows. That's something that happened in Kissimmee when I was looking to move back to Florida. One of the reasons I didn't move back to Kissimmee is that town was just destroyed by poorly planned growth. Almost everyone I grew up with moved away. Only one of my friends from childhood is still there. So planning for growth is essential, and trying to figure out how we do that without being under construction forever, which is
yes.
kind of a delicate balance to have. Florida is, I like to say Florida's filling up from the bottom. If you've ever been to South Florida.
Yeah, I love Miami.
One giant city from Miami to Juniper.
Oh, yeah. And even Kissimmee has essentially become part of Orlando. They're a small town. St. Cloud, neighbor city to Kissimmee, is even starting really growing. And formerly small towns have their own schools and other infrastructure of a growing area. So, as growth hits here, we need to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the rest of Florida and try to keep that small town character.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I have a house up here in west of Atlanta, and it's a farm actually. And I've met a lot of people up in this area, the northwest part of Georgia, Tennessee, and some of Kentucky. There are a lot of people from Panama City Beach up here that are moving up here because they are fed up with the growth down there and the traffic and stuff. They love the beach, but you can't go anywhere without getting into gridlock, basically, particularly during the summer. And they just don't want to live like that, So it's interesting that you touched on a nerve there with your campaign, apparently.
Oh, well, and that was a very common comment I got when I was campaigning. It was, I'm looking to move. And that's the saddest thing. I've been here, a person will say, I've been here 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and I'm looking to move soon because of the traffic, particularly, and because of the traffic during summer. And in some ways, there is going to be traffic during the summer. It's a beach, it's a beach town. That's when students are off. That's when it's nice to go to the beach. But there are some, especially in the tourism industry, that just think it's okay that people feel that. Another phrase I heard frequently was feeling trapped in your home, feeling trapped in our homes during the summer. And I've talked to folks in the tourism industry that just like, yeah, I mean, it's just okay. We just deal with it, and it's nice. Else, other times it's like, well, maybe if that's where your livelihood comes from, it's okay. But if other people aren't making that trade-off, then it is hard to tell them, no, for 3-4 months out of the year, you can't. You have to plan intricately when you leave the house to go to the grocery store. You can't go to your beach during the time when visitors are going to the beach. And it's a balance there. We do need our visitors. One of the deals that Florida makes with its tourist towns, it's kind of an implicit deal, is that residents get world-class amenities and low taxes in return for, honestly, putting up with some of the tourists. But you don't want to have a tourism-first mentality. You want that balance between residents, locals, and tourists. And so that's the balance I tried to strike through the campaign, and that's the balance I'm trying to use going forward. Some of the movement we have some of these events that were in the shoulder season to encourage more year-round visitors, and they got moved to at the beginning or the height of the busy season. Encourage those to move back off season, having more year-round jobs. If you look at the way Panama City Beach government is funded, what the tourists are contributing is really that 1% sales tax. And so if those sales tax dollars come in September, October versus June, it doesn't really make a difference. So encouraging more year-round tourism, which has always been a goal for Panama City Beach, I just think we may have lost sight of that in the last few years, means that we can have more year-round jobs in that industry, and also we can more easily plan for the surge in growth. We're never going to be able to build infrastructure for the height of the tourist season. If we have a giant peak of a tourist season, then you can't build infrastructure for that because we have to pay for that infrastructure, those roads, year-round. And so if we have a bad season or two, who's going to be paying for that infrastructure? It's going to be the full-time residents, the people who live here. The goal is to just make sure, and that peak is really where traffic gets unbearable. When you overload a system and people can't get through a traffic light. Everyone here has had the experience of sitting at a traffic light or a turn for 3-4 light cycles.
Oh, yes.
I tell you, when it's your when you're up, you don't care if you're blocking that intersection if you've been waiting for light cycles.
That's exactly right.
Mayor.
It's right anyway.
Yeah,
well,
I don't care. It's my turn, and so what that does is it blocks the flow of traffic, and so trying to avoid getting to that point by reducing that peak is an absolute goal. It's never going to be perfect. People are always going to complain about traffic, but really still being able to move around. And one of the fortunate and unfortunate things is I've lived a few places around the U.S. and I've lived in places with much worse traffic than this, where it's literally hours and hours to get anywhere. They won't measure travel time or travel by distance. It's by time. It's like, oh no, it's 3 hours to get there, and it could be across town. And so we have some folks who have moved here from, say, Atlanta, and they're just like, oh, this traffic isn't bad. You can just accept it. It's like, no, that's not the culture of the area. I kind of like it when people, are emphatic about complaining about traffic, because we want to keep that culture. We want to keep it so that, hey, this does feel like a small town. People didn't move here or grow up here to be in a large city. If you want a large city, there are plenty of large cities in the U.S. You feel free to go to one of those if that's like okay with you. If not, let's keep the nice parts of being a small town.
Well,
it's interesting. I was just going to say real quick. I've lived in Jacksonville for many years ago, but for a long time. But one of the things that I noticed about the Jacksonville political class was they had the vision to start building infrastructure and roads, and people were always complaining about, well, you're building this road to nowhere. And you go out there, 30, 40 years later, and you look at somebody had the vision to do that. Yeah. And the traffic, was never a problem, and it's still not a problem because somebody had the vision to do it before the growth and not try to do it during the growth. And that's what we've seen to be going on right now. It's like, we're going to 3-lane, Back Beach Road or develop some other parallel roads. I mean, there's only so much real estate out there, but we seem to do it while the problem's going on. We're trying to build more, which makes the problem even worse, So where's the vision at for this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
And Mayor, because I've been in that business. I ran a PR company, and all we did was work for engineers building roads and bridges, and it's such a long process to get them done. So I'm with John. What is the vision of this? Because Jacksonville, I go there, twice a year, and you just. It's quick to go around that city. Yep. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me what the solution is right now, I think we need to figure out Front Beach Road. We have a plan for Front Beach Road that is poorly suited toward the area. It involves bus lanes. And, that's some of the most expensive real estate on the beach, some of the most expensive real estate in Bay County, and putting red bus lanes there just doesn't make sense. And so because it takes so long to do construction, they had this plan, 15, 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. They're just going forward with it. But, times have changed in terms of how we can do transit. And the culture is not well suited to buses. Our people who live here aren't mass transit users. The people who visit here, you're coming from rural Tennessee, you didn't drive down here to go hop on a bus. So figuring out a plan for Front Beach Road is important. I like maybe adding an additional westbound lane, especially toward the Pier Park area. And then maybe considering doing some separated bidirectional golf cart lanes or something like that. But we need to discuss and figure out a plan there. I know there is Philip Griffith Senior Parkway. The extension there is in progress.
That's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. And there's some things we have to work out with the neighborhoods that will be impacted by it, particularly Breakfast Point. There's some concern that it's going to go too close for comfort there. So we got to work with Bay County and other folks to make sure we're accommodating existing uses. I mean, that's a big thing that's the balance of building infrastructure is you need to plan for the future, but you also have to accommodate the people who live here now. It's the people in the future aren't more important than the people who live here now. The people who live here now are your community, are your neighbors. So there's a balance there, and you're going to make some trade-offs. I know there's a plan to bring that down to Back Beach Road a little bit to accommodate maybe Colony Club and Trieste. And in terms of road construction, that's not ideal. In terms of accommodating the existing neighborhoods, that's what you got to do. And so there's going to be that balance there. We want to try and strike that balance also with the folks in Breakfast Point. So an additional limited access east-west road will be very helpful. Getting Front Beach right will be really helpful. Something that tourists enjoy going on and that locals can use as well. That's why I'm really like the idea of making it more amenable to golf carts, get them off those travel lanes or the car lanes, and maybe get them in their own dedicated lane. But again, that's not a firm plan. We need to have some study. We need to make sure that we're doing it right because these things take so long.
Right.
We don't want another case in which we're locked into a plan like bus lanes that end up not making sense. But there are a lot of benefits, and that's part of community involvement. We have a lot of talent in our community. Because the area is so attractive, we'll get folks who have both retired or just simply moved here, potentially because they're remote workers. And so they can have a lot of good input. They understand trade-offs. That was my experience going door to door, is people understand trade-offs and they're willing to work together if they have a partner in local government that's willing to work with them.
But part of that's getting a vision out there for people to understand. And one of the things I'm concerned about, because I travel down, and I can't remember what the name of the new road is. It goes up to 79 that parallels Back Beach Road by Pier Park. I can't remember the name of that.
Well, you can either call it Back Beach Road, or Philip Griffith Senior Parkway.
Which that needs a stoplight, I want to tell you, because I go there all the time to shop, and when you're trying to leave Pier Park and go back over to 79, it's very trafficky, and I bet there's going to be a lot of accidents there.
That's what I'm concerned about, because there's so much building that started going on out there on 79. You've got the hospital out there that's going to be open soon, and then you've got developments going up on both sides. And my understanding is I think they're looking at least 3,000 units out there.
Margaritaville.
And probably more than that. So you're going to have all that traffic. But, I was kind of surprised when they only made Philip Griffiths Parkway a 2-lane. It's like, where was the vision to make it 4? They should have 4-laned it to start with, And now,
my understanding is there's a plan for expanding that to 4 lanes pretty quickly. So
right, but it's back to the thing of, once the traffic volume increases, now you're going to try and be building on top of, doing construction on top of the traffic, and then of course you get that choke point up there where you end up merging back into Back Beach Road. And I don't know what the plan is, to go through that house. Are they going to go through the housing development, as a parallel along the bay area, all the way up maybe to the sports park? That's the kind of stuff I see them building parallel roads, but perpendicular roads off Back Beach, but they're all going into new developments. And
go ahead.
It's almost like you're going to overload back.
John, he's been in office 2 days, and we were demanding roads.
I'm sure heard a lot of this from people, as far
I totally understand, and actually, this is a great. The TPO, the Bay County TPO, is involved in a lot of this stuff. So that's, I believe, the Transportation Planning Organization, and they have a Citizen Advisory Committee, the CAC. And one of the beautiful parts about being in an area of this population is dedicated citizens can have a large impact if you have the time and the patience to work through governmental processes. And so if someone cares, they can really be part of that vision. I can tell you my understanding of the plan for Philip Griffith Senior Parkway is to kind of cut down, do almost a flyover at Back Beach, avoiding Colony Club and Trieste, and then come back up and then ending up at the sports park, and then I believe eventually going to Hathaway. And so, it will give us another east-west road there. It will be limited access. One of the issues, again, my understanding is, Back Beach Road had so many driveway cutouts that it's not ideal for quick east-west traffic. So, there are plans on that. They're working through them, and we do. They are not well advertised. It has been my experience here and many other people's experience here. And so I think there's an opportunity there, and something certainly I would like to pursue in elected office of just doing a better job of communicating and encouraging civic involvement. As I mentioned earlier, because there's the population here is relatively small. A few dedicated individuals, if you really care, getting involved and have the time and the patience, getting involved in these organizations, you can have a tremendous impact. And because we have a very robust retiree population, we have people with a lifetime of experience and wisdom that may not be aware of these opportunities. They are, but are willing to serve. We have a lot of folks who are in the armed forces who retired here because of this area's strong connection to the armed forces. They were stationed here. They wanted to come back. So, continuing that service into retirement, or even if you aren't retired and have some extra time, will really help shape the vision of this area. Because you can't just rely on elected officials to do all this. I want your input. We want your input. No one wants to go out there with, you have to have a vision and have to have a plan, but the plan has to be rooted in the local culture as well as the practicalities of traffic management. So we can merge those together if we have a good, strong dialogue and communication between folks in government and the population that they're serving.
So, Mayor, were you getting complaints about spring break? Because John and I lived here when spring break used to be out of control. And, when they first transitioned to trying to make it to a family-oriented spring break, all the local business owners were mad. But it has been, it's been such a better place. And then when something does pop up on the beach, Sheriff Ford, he's a regular on my show. He doesn't tolerate any of that. So are people okay with the way we've transitioned now the last couple of years to a family-oriented beach?
So I've heard some comments both ways in terms of, we liked it the old way, spring break, but a lot of people have been very satisfied with it. I'll also congratulate Chief Telementes, especially during this most recent spring break, with a robust strategy of trying to stop problems before they start.
Yeah, he's great.
I did not live here at the time, but I was certainly aware of Panama City Beach. And
yeah, we used to be on the news all the time.
Yeah. And rarely is a city on the news national
for good
news
reason.
For good
no,
reason.
It's been Miami lately. But so, Mayor,
I don't know that we're going to spend whatever they spent, a couple $1 million or something on an advertisement telling people to go away. It can be a little bit more fiscally conservative than that. It's a low bar, but
so
no, my impression and talking to people is people are happy with the way spring break has evolved.
Good. Okay.
I know
great.
it was a heated discussion at the time. There is some residual issues with high school spring break.
Yeah.
That we saw, and the problem with high school spring break is these kids come down here, they don't have much money, and then the beach, and then you're not going to go to the beach at night. So what do? Well, you're a high school kid, you're going to get in trouble. And so just trying to figure out how they can have fun while we'll make sure to have robust enforcement of the troublemakers, because again, Chief, the entire PCB police force and Chief Telementes does a good job of stopping those issues before they start. But making sure that, they do have maybe something to do that's not getting in trouble. Could be an option on that. But yeah, the spring break thing seems to have passed. The culture here has evolved away from that. And, the closing of the two very large clubs, unintentionally or kind of helped with that.
Yeah, we've come a long way from Chief Lee Sullivan cranking off a shotgun on the beach to control a riot.
So, Mayor,
better spring break experience.
I wanted you to tell us about your background, because you're obviously you're brilliant. You've got a master's in engineering and computer science from Cornell, so this is going to be so handy with all of this, engineering that you need to come up with roads and things. So tell us about where have you been?
Oh yeah, I've lived a few places around the U.S. So I grew up in Florida. Was born in Winter Haven, moved to Kissimmee when I was young, stayed there through high school, public school through high school, played soccer, and then just some local sports, football and basketball around the neighborhood. Went to Cornell University. I was there up through that Master's of Engineering and Computer Science. Beautiful area up there. That was the first time I ever saw a chipmunk. Which I was like, I'd only seen them in Disney cartoons, and so and then the people there are kind of sick of snow, but man, the snow was so neat when you first see it. After the 4th or 5th month of snow, you get a little tired of it. But that's actually a beautiful area that has central New York, not New York City. It's, for people who don't know the area, central New York is pretty far away. The Finger Lakes region is pretty far away from New York City. But it's a beautiful area that has done a good job of enriching local culture, preserving natural beauty, while also having a decently robust commercial culture. Because I was in computer science, I moved over to the Bay Area of California, the San Francisco Bay Area, also known as Silicon Valley. I worked with Amazon out there. Amazon's retail side, the stuff we all use, actually doesn't make them much money, but they have a computing side that runs that and actually runs a significant part of portion of the websites you use on the internet. So I worked over there. It was pretty fast growing, so I took a pretty lead role early on. And really had a lot of opportunities at Amazon. They also paid pretty well, which allowed me to get rid of my student loans very quickly. It was pretty important for me to get rid of those student loans, which were substantial, going to a private university, because my parents had co-signed them, so I didn't want them to be on the hook for any risks I took. And so after de-risking, started doing startups, worked with Pinterest pretty early on before they were public, and did another smaller startup around apartment rental search, and finally ended up with my most recent company, Elastic, which creates a search engine. If you ever searched on Wikipedia or Yelp or called an Uber, somewhere in the background's the Elasticsearch search engine. Elasticsearch was a remote job. California, or especially the Bay Area, there are positives to everywhere in the country, but there are a lot of negatives to that area, including some real bad parts about the local culture. I had a homeless encampment on my street when I lived there. Oh my gosh,
it was, Mayor, no.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, oh my goodness. When I would travel into San Francisco, I would literally pass people who are laid down with needles in their arms. And this was a common occurrence. San Francisco has this insane policy of giving thousands of needles per day to drug users, and so they're just needles through downtown San Francisco. So yeah, wanted to get out of there when I could. My parents, when they retired, had decided that their dream was to travel the U.S. in an RV, so they sold their home in Kissimmee. And I thought they would last 6 months, but they made it through 3 years before they wanted to settle down. We had some family in Colorado, so they settled down in Colorado. So I moved out there with them to kind of help them find a house. I was out there for a little while until COVID-19 happened, and Colorado just went absolutely insane. They shut down the outdoor parks. One of the most striking things to me was when they started shutting us down. We got this letter from the county health department. I was in Jefferson County, Colorado, which has a urban part that's close to Denver, but is mostly rural. I was in the rural part. And in that letter shutting us down, there was no one's name at the bottom. No bureaucrat, no elected official. It was just Jefferson County Health Department says you need to do X.
Oh my gosh.
How do I talk to, that's not a real thing. It's an organization. Who's the person that's taking responsibility for this? So in the meantime, I've done a lot of business travel, and I had actually traveled back to Orlando and when I got off the plane, I felt the oppressive Florida humidity and was like, man, I need to get back home. So I kind of had in my back pocket an idea to move back to Florida. Like I mentioned earlier, Central Florida had just become a mess. I wanted to move to South, which more closely reflected my values. And so I'd heard from people who had lived in Panama City Beach that they really liked the area. I was like, okay, one day, we'll see what happens. I'm kind of here in Colorado, but then COVID-19 hit. And Governor DeSantis had done a really strong job on COVID, actually followed what we were supposed to be doing. It kept the state open. So I was like, okay, well, let's go check it out. I came down here Memorial Day of 2020. This area had just opened up, which meant there was a lot of retail or there's a lot of home inventory available. I probably looked at 50 homes that week, Memorial Week 2020. I found a friendly neighborhood. I mean, all the neighborhoods here were friendly, but I found one that really clicked with me. You put an offer on a house, and then after that, moved down. Once I got settled here, sold my Colorado house and moved my parents down. We started building them a house. That actually just finished last June. Punch-out list finished in September. So now they're settled with their house. We're happy with that, and that's how I ended up here. It's kind of a long, convoluted story, but
wow. Well, now you have the weight of Panama City Beach on your shoulders. This is so exciting, and I love that you've traveled around, because I think, as a retired military officer, I've traveled the world, and we bring our best ideas to where we land.
Yeah, and thank you for your service, first of all, and. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about having lived in a few different places is you get to see what works and particularly what doesn't work. And so having that experience, I think, is pretty useful. Panama City Beach is so special in terms of its economics and it's the culture that's here. One of the things when I moved here that was really important to me was integrating with the local culture. And I did that through a local ministry called Beer and Bible, which kind of goes out into the world and finds people who are not currently being served by the church and does ministry in public. So, we have a group at Craft Bar, North Pier Park, and also a group at Salty Oak Brewery in town. And we just kind of study the Bible. We go through the gospel accounts. You don't have to know anything.
Well, you need to invite me, Mayor, because I've done Pints with Padre that I started with the priest.
Yeah, come on out. So
I want to come to yours.
So Wednesday, everyone's invited. It's the Panama City Beach group. We meet Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Craft Bar.
Okay, well, maybe I'll join you this week.
Yeah. Salty Oak, or the in-town group.
Yeah.
The Salty Oak, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. To 9 p.m. And again, you don't have to know the Bible at all. All the questions we talk about, you can do based on the passage we read there. It's ecumenical.
So
it doesn't matter what church you go to. It's wonderful, and it really let me get
to know
acclimated to this place. And one of the most annoying things that happens when you move into a place, when certain people move into a place, is they can talk about how great the place they moved from is. And it's just like, no one, if that place was so great, why did you move here? And so no one wants that. No one likes that. And so it was really important for me to integrate as quickly as possible. I mean, there's a reason I moved here, which is because of the people and because of the values.
So yeah. I saw too, John. Wait, I was.
Go ahead, Veronica.
Well, go, John. You go. We're always fighting for our guests.
Well, I was going to say, I just wanted to follow up on that. It's interesting. I have a degree in computer science also, so I understand the mentality. And one of the things I've always had an issue with, and I've been here for 45 years, and one of the things I've always had problems with is attracting technical people down here. I've had plenty of opportunities to go to Washington and, different tech places, for promotions. And I like the lifestyle here. You should really try it, and I always had problems attracting top technical talent down here because he didn't understand the lifestyle trade-off, not living in Washington, D.C. or, I actually came down here from Philadelphia, from the suburbs of Philadelphia, and dramatic change in lifestyle doing that and much better quality of life. Is any of your goal to try to maybe encourage that kind of development down here, or are you kind of out of that business now that you're into politics?
So I actually, I try to keep this place a secret, to keep it small. I think developing local talent is where I would want to focus here, and making sure that people who are interested, because the nice part about the technology industry is you can do it from anywhere now. And so you can live here. And my last company was fully remote. I did not have to go into the office. We were fully remote before COVID made remote common. And so you can absolutely go through here. You live pretty much anywhere you want. There are certain time zone issues. Actually, being in Central Time is a very convenient time zone, because you can work with Europe if you need to. It's not that early in the morning. And you can also work with, there's a lot of developers on the West Coast. And so I would say for folks who either want to work for another company or start a company here, it would be nice to encourage some kind of local technology connections so that we're all supporting each other. Co-working spaces may be a part of that. Maybe do some sponsoring of local events that encourage technology. When you say technology here, a lot of people think about someone fixing their printer.
Yeah.
That's called my husband.
Yeah. But really, it's everything. It's everything from the technology we're using right now to discuss in local politics, the technology you're going to be using to broadcast your podcast.
Right.
There's a lot of things that and actually small teams. When I was on Amazon, they actually had this concept called the 2-pizza team. And the 2-pizza team says that the perfect size software team is a team that can be fed by 2 pizzas. You actually don't want a large team because there's a big overhead to communication. The larger team, you have to have structure and hierarchy and other things that really slow you down. You want to keep your team as small as possible, and there's a lot of tools you can do to do that. I know Alan Branch actually worked with some of those tools. He's a very successful software engineer in town. So kind of encouraging that local culture, or if you're interested in that, making sure that we're working with maybe Gulf Coast State, or just some of the local programs, even some of the high school programs, to present that as an option.
So I know we're getting short on time, so I want to do like a quick fire, like a fire round. I've got some quick questions, and you can answer them quickly. So I know you're working on trying to get some tornado notification out on the beach. So just like a sentence or two on that, Mayor.
Yeah, that came up. That's one of the things that came up during the campaign. It seems to be a perennial issue out here. There's always a question of cost of infrastructure and maintenance. And so we're trying to figure out what the cost and maintenance will be in terms and the value. There's a possibility of using weather radios as a way to bridge the gap there, so you can still not deal with someone whose cell phone is off or something in the evening. Yeah, have something that is pinpoint, hey, there's a tornado. So there's some possibility that's there. We just need to be practical about it.
Okay, and then the support that the rec endorsing you, that was huge, I assume, in your campaign.
Yeah, particularly Governor DeSantis, endorsing your opponent. I thought I was surprised at that one, really.
Well, but he didn't use the word endorse. He used the word support.
Okay.
So
the governor doesn't support anybody. That's the part.
Well, I mean, I was a little surprised at the timing of that. It could have been a little bit early on if it was stronger. But the reality is this was a local election about local issues and about taxes, traffic, infrastructure, and so that's why we get out to vote. And in terms of the rec endorsement, I mean that was tremendous. That was huge. I think they saw us. My predecessor didn't really support the local political organizations, had not been to any of their meetings, saw someone who was for small, open government, small government, lower taxes, trying to be responsible in terms of the way government works. A lot of people are focused on national politics, and they do occasionally intrude on local politics. We had a recent proclamation for fair housing, in fact, that had included, I think from Washington, a phrase that said, everyone's for fair housing, but they also said Panama City Beach City Council is committed to advancing equity for all. And, that's just a political phrase that we do not need in here. And so, it's so weird. And so that was in previous proclamations. One of the first things, actually, literally the first thing I did almost officially before being sworn in was have them strike that phrase. So that's not in the most recent proclamation.
Excellent.
And, that's the kind of vigilance we need. And I think that's what the rec saw in this campaign.
Okay. And your leadership style, how do you roll?
Yeah. So my leadership style is, I try to set broad guidelines, and then I let people who are passionate do their work. As if it's obvious, just get it done. Don't want to micromanage you. If there's a mistake, we will adjust and make sure we don't make that mistake again. But, letting people do the work that they're good at and focus on is the best way to get the most out of folks.
And then do you have a motto? I know, you said faith's part of your life, but is there a motto that you roll with? Because like John and I are military, so, excellence in all we do, service before self. That's how we kind of roll. So do you have something like that?
Yeah, I was really struck by this phrase from my Ephesians 4:15, speaking truth in love. And so... And that's really having both the truth and the love aspect of it is really important. You can really over-index on the love, but not have the truth aspect of it. Yeah, I think you see that with some of the poorly thought out compassion, so-called compassion in the Bay Area, where they just people should be able to do what they want. It's no, it's not. It's not truthful to allow people to kill themselves on your city streets. I mean, you may think that's love, but it's not. And so, but also having the truth part combined with the love part, where you can speak truth to someone, but if you're doing it in a harsh and negative way, they're going to turn away from that truth, even if it's reality. So it's that combination of the two that really I like to go with, and also just keeping your eyes on God. You have to move in the world and keep your eyes on God, but you have to have both the movement and the direction. And so truth and love and the movement and direction with eyes on God are two things that I try to live.
And then your parents are here. Is that your family? Are you married and have children?
I'm in a committed long-term relationship with my girlfriend.
Okay.
But I'm not married. Yeah. It's part of the things, and when I talk about balance, I really mean it. My earlier life was unbalanced. I was almost entirely focused on my career and kind of let that other part of my life slip by. And, But being able to come here and have a little bit of slower pace of life has really let me focus on that part of my life too.
And is 4 years enough, Mayor? You're going to have a busy 4 years, and we're going to be knocking on your door to come back anytime.
Yeah, I've on the campaign and in life, you have to have a long-term focus, but it's a day at a time. You want to both have your eyes kind of toward the ground, what step in front of you are you taking, and your eyes toward the horizon and even up a little bit. So it's a combination. I'm just focusing on a day at a time here, trying to make sure we do what makes sense. I mean, we have a busy tourist season coming up. We have a hurricane season coming up. There are practical day-to-day things we need to be focused on, but we also have to do this longer-term vision we spent the earlier part of the conversation talking about.
So any final thoughts for our listeners?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I touched on this earlier, but, volunteering and serving with strong dedication and not being lukewarm is the best way to make this a strong, trusting town. So whether that's your church, a civic organization, government, serving on boards, or even individual things like the parking mobility study, or working in the sports league. I know the sports league is always looking for referees. If you're able to serve and you're dedicated to it, that's what makes a wonderful town. Is those kind of folks who have a little bit of extra time and are willing to give to the community.
Well, it's been. Go ahead, John.
I'll say real quick, Stuart. On that note, if you could come up with an application for people to connect to those kind of things, I think that'd be fabulous. I learned a long time ago, when you're looking for volunteers, people are willing to volunteer, but you have to ask them. You can't, if you sit around and wait for them to show up, it's never going to happen. And that's really the key to successful volunteer programs, is figuring out how to do the ask. You do the ask and they'll respond to you. And I don't know if it takes a database of, here's all the kind of stuff you can volunteer. If you're interested in this, give us a call, let us know, and there's just that connection doesn't exist right now. You can't find this stuff.
Yeah. I know that was actually a challenge. One of the things I did when I first moved here was go to the Chamber of Commerce and call every single volunteer organization to try and find opportunities, and wasn't as successful with that. And so actually, John, that's maybe not in the next year or two, but that is a personal goal of mine, is to help, once we get a little bit more settled in this role, is to kind of as a private citizen, develop an application like that to get people well integrated with the community. I've had pretty decent success of doing that with my folks in Beer and Bible. And so trying to broaden that out, I think is a really good idea, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Well, and I wanted to thank you too, Mayor, because literally I reached out to you before my event with that billionaire, and you showed up. So that was kind of your first outing as our mayor-elect, and and everybody was so excited that, oh my gosh, you got the new mayor here. So thank you, because the billionaire was so impressed with the outreach of our community. So I appreciate you coming to that event, because it was a $50 million investment, and we want to take more of his money. It was great to meet everyone there. I try to just get out in the community, whether it's folks doing heavy investment, or it's just an individual civic organization. One of the first things I did after being mayor is attend the local Optimist. Literally the next day, I attended the local Optimist Club meeting. And so, just making sure to hit everyone and show that, hey, this is our local government. We want to hear from you. Well, it's been such a pleasure. We've been talking with Mayor Stuart Tettemer. He's our new Panama City Beach mayor as of 48 hours ago, and we will be having you back, sir. So we appreciate you joining Veronica Live this morning.
Thank you for the wonderful opportunity, and I really appreciate Veronica and John. This was absolutely great. Have a great rest of your day.
We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live. And oh my goodness, I was like, John, wait, because we start talking before I hit record. And, Veronica Live, we were just chatting off air that we have the most incredible guests. And this morning, whenever you listen to this, just Patrick Chapin, the new president and CEO, president and CEO of Bay County Chamber. What an interesting backstory. I mean, He took a whole year off to travel the world. He's donated a kidney. He's an ultra marathoner. Talking with the new Panama City Beach mayor of literally 48 hours, Mayor Stuart Tettemer, that nobody... I wasn't tracking that race. I looked a long time, a little bit ago when I heard the name, and I looked on Facebook and I go, well, he doesn't have that many followers, So I honestly didn't know if he'd be able to. How would you take out Mayor Sheldon, who's very powerful?
Right.
And the governor supported him. Everybody in town supported him. Now I don't want to belittle Mayor Sheldon on his events. I'm very excited that he has brought these twice a year, 4-day country things that fill up beds and heads and bring the biggest stars, and my problem is when I go to a concert, I like a seat. I don't like to be with everybody squishing me. But that's wonderful for our town. But this, now we've got a computer science, smart guy in it. I didn't see it coming. John.
Well, it kind of goes back, everybody thinks, first off, you got the money aspect. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mayor Sheldon outraised, Mayor Stewart by 3-1 almost. Okay, so obviously the money advantage, all the businesses, everybody, the in crowd was behind Sheldon, and so and the problem was that he had an opponent that went out and did the retail politics, that went out and knocked on doors and talked to people, and Veronica, in almost every case, every race I've ever watched or monitor, whatever, go back and do a look back on why did they win. It's the person that went out and did the retail politics.
Well, because I've talked about this for several years now, because when I first moved here 10 years ago, one of the first races I got involved in was Congressman Sutherland, and he'd been a 2-time congressman. His people thought he had it. There was no knocking on doors, and I was trying to parlay the veterans aspect. I tried to help. I prepped a fancy woman that was doing a New York Times interview because there was a lot of things that went wrong with his campaign, and it was his people thought they had it, and then they did stupid things running against a woman that went national. And so
it's the arrogance of incumbency. That's what it is.
And you cannot be arrogant today because we're tired of it. And how interesting to talk to Mayor Tettemer, because he was in Denver, saw what a full-on lockdown was. He's been to San Francisco with needles in people's arms along the street. You know what I'm saying? That's insanity. Because every time when my son lived in Seattle and I flew out there and his wedding, we're at a fancy hotel and somebody's shooting up in front of the hotel, and I'd seen it before, so I wasn't scandalized as the guests were. And this is part of the lunacy. And so I am excited because it sounds like he has vision. And for me, the traffic is a huge problem. And I was just, I had an HOA meeting with my neighborhood because, I for some reason, I always end up in leadership with my HOAs, by the way. And one of the homeowners was saying how this past week she was going from Hathaway Bridge over to Pier Park, and it was like almost a 2-hour adventure. Yeah, because the traffic, and there was no accident, John. There was, and I was like, oh my gosh, because now I kind of go the back way through the airport and sneak over with that Philip Griffiths Highway, but they need a light there too.
Faster. I'm sure that's faster for you between the mess on 390.
Oh yeah.
Add that to it, and then through Lynn Haven and everything. It's probably faster for you to go back.
Well, it sounds like. I mean, I'm shocked that the mayor won the race. I wasn't expecting it. He's already been lovely because I literally reached out to him 22 hours in advance of my event, and he came. And so it sounds like he really cares about this community. And with his parents being here, he's not going anywhere. And I think, too, that engineering background, when you're talking infrastructure and roads, and having done PR for a couple of years in that world, it takes 10 years, 20 years sometimes to change things. And, so I'm excited to have him there. It sounds like he's a good guy.
I hope the office doesn't change him. And that's one of the things we talked about with Patrick Chapin, of the chamber, about the servant leadership model, which is what he learned at Disney, as far as, no jobs beneath anybody.
Oh, he was wonderful too, because he's,
right.
Sometimes these people have these positions and their heads explode. But these are two outsiders that have come in, and they're bringing their A game, and that's the thing. Because I was talking about it last night at dinner, is sometimes there's this friction when you're not from here, that if you are from here, you're better than the person that's not from here. But those of us that have lived around the world bring our A game everywhere we go. And, I'm always trying to make it a better place here. And I know you are too, John.
Well, when we first moved here, in 1983, we lived in Lynn Haven, and I'll tell you what, outsiders were not welcome.
I've definitely felt that over the 10 years I've been here, especially when you're successful at things. And, why do people have to act like that? But no, the new mayor said he had, we're great at our craft and looking forward to the next one. And then the CEO, Patrick, said, thank you so much for the opportunity. He had a blast. So we'll be able to book them again as stuff happens. It's nice to be able to reach out and touch these people. But we have to talk about what's been happening in the world. And yesterday,
what's not happening in the world. I mean, it's crazy out there.
Former Congressman George Santos he has his Witty Wednesday. So I've been listening because Congressman Gates is like a regular, and I love to hear from our congressman. And so he had one last night, a last minute one. And he'll send me an invite. And then I had messaged him yesterday on X because he put something out there, and I said, hey, I really, next time in New York, I want to have coffee with you. And then I said, really want you to come on my show. And he responded for the whole world to see that he would come on my show, John. And so anyways, fast forward, he had one of his little witty Friday night events because the breaking news story was Kristi Noem's book is about to hit. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But he invited me to speak, which he's done every time I've done it. I mean, the last time I listened to the show, I was like laying in bed. So I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed because you got to sit up to speak. So anyways, I spoke on the subject last night. And then he said for the whole world to hear how he was going to come on my show. And I'd actually had already messaged him my phone number. So we're going to get him booked because even though he comes with some baggage, I have to say all of his votes would have been the way we want. And the way he sees things, I have to say it's normally, John, how you and I see things. But the breaking story last night was this book that Kristi Noem is about to drop, and they released a little snippet. And apparently when she was out in South Dakota on her farm, one of her dogs was bad, and then she was having problems with a goat. So she actually, instead of like how you and I would drive our animals to the vet to put them to sleep, she decided to shoot her dog. So the whole world, it was like a whole show on Kristi Noem shooting her dog out on her farm. And people were so upset, John, because they were like, oh my gosh, because as a city person, I couldn't ever see myself shooting my own dog. But the dog, sometimes animals are out of control, just like Commander that belongs to President Biden, who's bit literally 25 Secret Service agents, should have been put down because it was bad.
Right, should have been put down. Yeah.
Instead, they allowed him to bite everyone. But Kristi Noem shot this dog, and everybody was so mad about it. And how could you shoot an animal? And oh my goodness! But I kind of looked past that, and when I was for my time to comment on the show, I said, well, I really think maybe she shot the dog because, number one, the dog was bad. Number two, when you're dealing with an animal, it's a very hard decision to put a dog down. Well, maybe in this case it wasn't, but normally it's pulling at your heartstrings. But it showed that she had a difficult decision to be made, and she did it. ... She's also vying to be the VP in the number 2 most powerful position in the world. Had that been a Taliban and she needed to make a decision to take one out, this is what I said. I think she would. This is what it's showcasing. She made a hard decision.
I think if this is actually true now, because NBC News, which ran with the story, has not verified the story. See, this is what the problem of modern journalism, right? They're running with the story they haven't verified.
Okay.
So it may be made up. The book has not been released yet. It's not due to be released for another month. So this is whether it's leaked stuff, I have no idea. But I will say this about Christine, and I really do like her a lot. But if she wrote a book and put this in the book, she needs to find whoever didn't flag that and say, you really don't need to be putting that in a book, because most people are going to be
mortified, right?
It, okay?
Right, and I will say, I was on this show. Everybody was repulsed by it, and there were some studs on there too, like some military studs.
So the way I look at this, Veronica, is this is a judgment call. Okay, forget about the issue. It's a judgment call, and are you that out of touch that you would cite this? And farm business, I understand. Okay, people don't understand where their food comes from anymore, so they don't understand.
Right, we're not killing cows or horses
right.
that break a leg.
The steak, you got to kill the cow, okay? You got to chop the chicken's head off.
Oh my gosh! Which my mother's from Spain, so my Spanish grandparents lived in this, like duplex that they owned all of it, but down below was a little like farm zone with the chicken, and that's how you got your chicken. They'd go and break the neck, and I was traumatized as a city girl, and they were living in a city, but they had this little zone. So most Americans can't handle this.
Exactly, and it's like, okay, so when you're a farmer, you're dealing with animals, lots of animals, okay, dog, goat, chicken, whatever, okay, pigs, and that animal is an economic item to you. Okay. You have to feed grain, whatever, slop the pig. And at some point the pig gets old, the cow gets old. If it's a milk cow, it gets old, stops giving milk. Okay. What's the economic value of a cow that's old and won't give milk? To a dairy farmer, 0. Okay. Same thing for a pig. If you have a pig that gets to a certain age and you can't have piglets and all that kind of stuff, what's the economic value of the pig? It's time to go to the slaughterhouse, because all you're doing is feeding the pig and there's no output from it. So, it reaches an economic value and it's time to go to the slaughterhouse to kill it. And the same thing with dogs and goats and whatever, you don't take it to the vet to put down, you don't. And I've got a friend that has a bunch of cows.
She could be really rural. How are you going to drive a dog that maybe was eating the chickens, or a goat that's out of control? And now, because I had, did I tell you that story? Did we talk about that last week when I had to drive my 2 dogs to the vet because they both decided to eat a plant?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so they both ate I think it was an impatient, and I didn't realize it because I saw the dachshund eating the plant. And so we come back into the house and the dachshund throws up half the plant at the door. So I was like, okay. And then my crazy doodle, Cupid, threw up on the sofa, which I have them covered with fancy stuff so that it didn't impact my sofa. And then the dachshund threw up on the sofa. And then the dachshund threw up in the house again. And then outside. So I called the vet and I was like, hey, I Googled this plant. What do I need to do? And they're like, come now. 2 dogs to the vet, and one's crazy because Cupid was a COVID dog, so she never went anywhere. And yeah, so the dachshund Picasso was throwing up, and we get to the vet. Cupid's now on my lap having a spaz attack because we're in a vet, and then the other dog's throwing up who I can't even handle because I've got a crazy doodle. And so So my friend's a vet, so he took Picasso and gave him the anti-throw up shot. It wasn't a plant that would kill the dog, but apparently it was a little dachshund can't puke 10 times. And then he came back. I've never had a dog get an IV. So he's like, I'm giving you Picasso, and he looks like a camel. Well, they put an entire IV in his back, and he looked like he had a Kim Kardashian Brazilian butt lift. And and I still had a crazy doodle on my lap. And luckily, Cupid only puked once because she didn't eat that much, I guess, because she's a dumb blonde. She didn't figure it out. But anyways, $200 later, and a dachshund with a Kim Kardashian Brazilian butt for the whole rest of the afternoon. They survived, but this was a emergency situation, right. John.
But back to if you're a farmer and you play like
you don't have time to bring
and
them.
You have a dog eating your chickens. Okay, back
right?
to
You've got to handle it.
That dog is costing you money because he's killing the chickens, which make eggs or meat or whatever you're growing them for. And you're not going to take the dog to the vet. Just go out and you take a gun and you shoot it. Put it out of its misery.
It costs so much, as we know. We know how much these things cost. I mean, luckily for me, it was $200 because the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be based on my children living in New York and
you live in a city and the vet's not that far away. Out here in the country, the vet is a long ways away. Okay?
Well, and how do you get crazy animals? Because I luckily have a truck with I was my own WeatherTech commercial as the dachshund kept puking back there. But it was hard enough getting two to the vet, and I can't imagine getting
some
a
animals,
goat.
Back to farms, goats, and you don't put the goat in the car, okay?
No. Well, and that was the other thing. It's
you
kind
don't
of
put the cow in the car and the horse in the car,
Well, in the story, it says she then went on to a family goat, which she called nasty and mean. And so anyway, she led the goat to a gravel pit where she first shot and wounded, but did not kill the animal. I guess she had the wrong kind of bullet in the shotgun, which was stupid. And then she got another shell for her gun and killed the goat. So back to what you said, and that's what came out in this show. Everybody's like, who the hell's editing this book? But right. I know now, because I work sometimes for a fancy, PR company. When it comes to books, the author's writing the book, and then whoever's editing doesn't really care about your content. You know what I'm saying? It's not some political editor.
But this is a political book, okay?
Well,
it has to be looked at through a political lens.
I think she was trying to be tough, is what it was. But she looked stupid with the wrong bullet for the goat.
But are you telling me that nobody in her circle that has seen this book or read a proof of the book?
Well,
you probably really don't need to be putting out there because 99% of America is not going to get this, okay? They're going to think you're mean and nasty.
That was the thing. And plus,
farmers do.
The left has gone bananas, and then
right.
I don't know how many people are on this. I'll have to look here on the show last night. It was probably a couple hundred, but most were in that with that sentiment that they couldn't handle that this woman was shooting a dog,
right.
And a lot of times too, if it's a dog, on a farm, a lot of them are purebred, by the way, because they need them to do certain things, and it has to be that kind of breed.
Right.
So they're not cheap.
It's a farm animal. It's not a pet. It's a farm animal, okay, that's out doing a job. It's a working dog. And I think you'd find the same. Talk to hunters that have a lot of dogs, They do the same thing. When the dog's time is done, the dog's time is done,
Well, so this show last night, there's been 15,000 views, John, on this show that we did last night that I got to speak on. So anyways, I know I'm just a little pea in a pod here, but when I got the invite and that story literally just broke. I saw it in having been a military woman and you're working with men, you don't want people to think you're weak. And maybe she was trying to showcase if she had to take out Osama bin Laden and he was a dog that bit, she could do it.
It really is. I think she did herself a lot of damage.
Well, I think because right now on X, like everybody, even conservatives, like David Limbaugh commented on it. Rush Limbaugh's brother last night.
Yep.
So conservatives are not liking it. So basically, the other tidbit that I started last night commenting on X was, well, let's cross her off the VP list because this is a freaking distraction. We don't need more distractions, John. We don't need more distractions. And
to me, it just says she's out of touch with stuff, you know.
And I'm on 140,000 feeds, and so the most ever based on my what I was doing last night. But and then my favorite
I'm proud
thing.
To say I'm on 0.
I know you need to be on there because that's the other thing. We're pretty smart, you know. You and I can get on these feeds. I was called an old hag. That was my statement of the week. Somebody called me an old hag.
Okay.
But
there you go.
Because they didn't like what I had to say. It was a liberal. It's always a liberal,
Of course. Because they always have to resort to name calling because they can't. See, they can't come back at you factually, or morally or anything else. So they have to resort to name calling because that's all they have left.
Well, and I don't feel like I'm in the old hag category yet. I don't need a facelift yet, John. Which hopefully you'll fund when the time comes.
Well, you got to go talk to
my husband.
No, Dr. Ward.
Well, no, he does the injectables. It's
he
not
just
the
does the injections. Okay.
Which
got to find a different one for the facelift. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that was a breaking news story last night, and then George Santos announcing to the world he'd come on my show. So granted, you know, he's not a saint, but every way he would vote, because I've been listening to his show now for several weeks, is the way you and I would vote. So McCarthy kicking him out, we've been screwed by this. I just want to say.
I thought it's just another case of Republicans shooting themselves in the foot, much like this week, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans out there. We need to vacate the speaker, you know, because
we don't have time, MTG, and that's what I've decided. It's just we don't have time, and so.
The stupidest one I saw was one story, and I can't recall the Republican's name, but he was saying we need to boot Johnson, but before we do that, we need to have a caucus meeting to decide who the next speaker is, rather than having it play out on the floor in public. I was like, really? You know, you're never going to get anybody in that caucus at this point to agree to anybody to be another speaker. It's just never going to happen. You know, because the lines are so divided, you're never going to get agreement in the caucus. And so I think this vacate the speaker stuff, it's like right off the speaker. You know, you're going to have to elect a new speaker in January anyways. So, you know, the damage is done. If you think
John, we don't have time. We don't have time because my biggest tweet of the week, one of my biggest ones, was on Dan Bongino because he was commenting about, you know, Trump being tied up. And so I commented that it's time for us to pick the VP because we need the VP running around fighting on behalf of Trump because he's in a stupid, dumbass courtroom. And I think I've got like 25,000 views on that, lots of comments about that, because when is he going to pick the damn VP? And now obviously he can't be known because everybody's pissed at her because she's a puppy killer. So we need this. We need a VP now.
I don't necessarily agree with that because first off, Trump is the star, not the VP. Okay. He is not going to let a VP selectee run around getting all the glory. That's just not Trump. And I think Trump he's discombobulating these people because they think they can keep him tied up in New York and he won't be able to campaign. And what is he doing while he's in New York? He's campaigning. Look at remember, this is running for president, okay? The campaign is 30-second sound bites and visuals.
Yeah.
And do you think Trump's not getting great 30-second sound bites and visuals out of what's going on in New York right now? You saw him with the construction workers where they were cheering for him and F Joe Bidening. Okay? What kind of scene does that say, you know, when they say, well, the unions are all for Biden and not for Trump. And here you have all these unionized construction workers in New York cheering for him. What message is that sending? The Democrats should be frightened for what was going on.
Okay, well maybe you're right in that way, but
of the Democrats, they're doing it to themselves,
Well, it's so scary. Yeah, so here's the comment on the one. Old hag set in her ways, making comments about things she knows nothing about. And I was actually commenting on the Stern story because Howard Stern, if you don't know, is actually a piece of trash because he's never been nice to women. And there's a story that I actually attached so this loser could see it. And he said, I'm not a listener, but someone with a effed up opinion that's not warranted. And so then I was like, oh, old hag, good one. And then I attached a story about how awful Howard Stern is. Plus, I can't stand to look at his hair. Oh,
they obviously never listened to the old Howard Stern.
but it's not even that old because the story was from a few months ago talking about when he had like Sofia Vergara, the beautiful Colombian woman from Modern Family. How he was commenting about her breasts. I mean, the guy's a creeper. He's such a creeper. But go ahead.
I would say he's been doing it for years. That's his shtick. And, it's like, well, where's the misogyny charge against Howard Stern? Well, because Howard Stern's turned into a liberal. So he gets a pass. He gets a pass now.
And then you get into this. So the interview, which I don't even know how they kept Biden awake. I think it's an hour and 10 minutes. But all of it is Howard Stern just fawning on, oh, I didn't know that. You're so special. You're so wonderful. Tell me about your first wife. And then, oh, that must have been so hard. And then Bo, and then, like you said, the big takeaway was he did say he would debate Trump, and so we better frickin' hold his feet to the fire on that one. That's an important one.
Well, the oatmeal brain Joe Biden, I don't know what they had him pumped up on.
Well, he wasn't as hyper as the State of the Union, but it was like if you've ever had an old relative that just tells you those old stories, that this is what it was. It was, oh my goodness. And then when he met Jill.
The latest is now they're not going to let him walk to the helicopter by himself. They're going to surround him with aides because he looks so horrible trying to walk, like he's old and decrepit, which he is. But another story that we had was Biden at a pro-abortion event, blessing himself. Okay, I'm like.
Yeah. So I follow Catholic Vote. I think I'm in love with X because unlike Facebook, that's all your friends that don't like your stuff or they like your stuff. When it's political, a lot of them don't want to comment because they're afraid that they're going to be taken out. X has given me freedom, John, because I can comment about all of this crap and tell people what he did when he was at this event with Nikki Fried. Everybody, it was Nikki Fried who is our in charge of the Democrat Party. She used to be our agriculture commissioner.
Well, they've got some fantasy that Florida is in play as a purple state, which I laugh at, because Florida, we've turned another 2 counties red in the past couple of months. So Florida, I think there's 4 or 5 counties left that are Democrat majority, the typical, Miami, Dade, Broward kind of thing. I think they flipped Hillsborough recently. So Republicans have a huge majority in the state. And so this was at a pro-abortion rally. And again, the Democrats think that's their goal. That's their salvation. And Nikki Fried was complaining about Ron DeSantis, going from 15 weeks to 6 weeks. And Joe Biden's up there and he makes the sign of the cross. He puts his hand on his forehead and then on his heart and then on each shoulder. And he's a Catholic, okay? For Catholics, that means
he's
something.
He's a pretend Catholic. I'm done with him being a Catholic.
Right.
He is not in my club.
But to do it at an event where you're advocating for the murder of children is horrid. I mean, it's just why he's not excommunicated, and even the Archbishop was not having any of it, So I just I don't know. Or Catholic bishop, Joseph Strickland wrote on X, absolutely vile. He said the exact words he should have said. Absolutely vile. Pray for the soul of our president. He is a feeble old man. He needs to prepare to meet his maker. That's from a Catholic bishop saying exactly
Wait. Which bishop said that? Who said that?
It was Catholic Bishop Joseph Strickland. I don't know what diocese out. It didn't say, but what he said was exactly what needed to be said. This guy claims to be a Catholic, but it's just pretend. He's a pretend Catholic. Someday he'll meet his maker, and he'll have to explain to God what the hell was going on with him. Well, and if he gets a pass, I'll be surprised.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nikki Fried's a piece of work. She's awful herself, and I've been seeing some ultrasounds lately because somebody I know is expecting, and let me tell you about an ultrasound at these early weeks. How incredible they are. How incredible. And we know now through a blood test if you're having a boy or a girl. And guess what? You can even see the baby yawn when they're like at 13 weeks. So I'm over this. That we don't know that this is a human with unique DNA. I'm standing up for life. And John, you and I fight for it every day. Right. There's no more excuses. There's no more. This is not a clump of cells. This is a baby. And we need to bend over backwards, help these mothers that can't afford. Whatever we have to do, we need to do. And then they're always like, Catholics, conservatives, you just talk about it. You don't help. No, I know plenty of people that would adopt too. So
it's not only that, Veronica. You and I believe that evil exists in the world. Okay, there is good and there is evil, and the godless tend to be evil. Okay, they don't necessarily have to be, but they tend to be. And that these abortionists are exactly that. They don't seem to mind murdering babies, and I'm not talking about 6 weeks or 15 weeks.
No,
I'm talking about after they've been born, and it comes out of their own mouths. Okay. So the Democrat,
I'm done.
Former Democrat,
I'm done.
Virginia said it. He said it out loud. He's a doctor, okay? After the baby's born, the doctors and the mom will consult and decide whether to kill the baby or not. I mean, it's like,
no, I'm
who
done with
in their
this.
right mind could utter those words that was not absolute evil, 100% evil, to utter those kinds of words. And I'm so tired of the apologists, particularly on the Christian side, call out evil for what it is.
The quote in the article, voters of faith need to wake up and understand what is at stake in November. And then the guy says that he called it demonic. It is demonic. Who would kill a baby? Who would kill a baby? Instead, we're freaking out over a dog that that Chrissy Noem had a dog that was attacking people. I'm angry at the Bidens that ever had a damn dog at the White House that bit 25 Secret Service. A German Shepherd can destroy you. I was bit by a German Shepherd at 15. So our society's messed up, John.
I know, but the problem is, Veronica, is how much money will people spend if their dog gets sick or ill or whatever? How much?
Thousands.
How many thousands of dollars will they spend on their dog, and they won't spend a nickel to spare a baby? A baby has a soul. A dog doesn't. Okay, huge difference, and we seem to have lost sight of that reality.
Well, okay, so
because of evil.
And I'm sorry, these are babies. If you think killing babies, okay, you need to go Google, because it used to be Father Pavone, but the Pope stripped his title of being a priest because he's a Trump supporter. But if you follow him on Instagram, he put a link if you want to go see an abortion. I'm not strong enough to do it myself. But this also leads into the next segment of these crazy people that are protesting on campuses that also has been out of control. Columbia, George Washington, I think was yesterday. USC, John, they have canceled their graduation. And that was another one of my tweets that went crazy. I was like, what gives? This is a somebody in college working their ass off to go to their graduation, and now you've canceled it. I wrote, hire some freaking Navy SEALs to control the area. This is out of control.
It's not only that, they're telling the Jewish students and the Jewish professors, in the case of, what was it, NYU? Maybe it was Columbia. One of them, there was a Jewish professor on the campus. They locked him out of the campus. His security card would not get him into the building anymore because they shut him off because they didn't want him in the building because he was Jewish. I'm like, what? Where is this? Is insane.
Okay, so here's the bottom line: is these people, which I think there's, I'm seeing a lot of info out there saying that a lot of these are hired professionals, probably by George Soros. But but when you wrap the American flag around this, freedom of speech does not involve wanting to kill people. That's when I draw the line. Death to America. These students need to be canceled. If they're foreign on a visa, they need to be sent back to their freaking country. I'm tired of this, John. We need strong leadership.
Well, you notice they're not wrapping themselves in the American flag. They're wrapping themselves in the Palestinian flag, which... And if you wrap yourself in an Israeli flag, they're gonna try.
Yeah,
to
but they
stop
wrap
you
it
and
into this is my freedom of speech. So our Jewish and brothers and sisters are being kicked in the gut, and we can't. We got to draw a line. Now, I will say I was shocked because I commented on this on Twitter too, and it went a little crazy that USC was actually arresting protesters. So I wrote, are the protesters going to go have dinner now with Governor Newsom? Because, I couldn't believe USC had the cojones to do it. Now,
yeah, exactly.
UT of Austin was all over arresting protesters. So kick ass on the UT president, because Texas isn't going to deal with this, Shiza.
Right. And Governor DeSantis said the same thing. Not happening in Florida. Not going to be allowed. This is not. First off, I'd like to find out. I'd love to go up and just rip the masks off these people. You notice they all wear masks.
Oh yeah.
So you can't find out who they are. So they're ashamed or something. I'm not quite sure what
or
it
they're
is.
going to be trying to get a job
who they are.
in IT for Google, which I'm clapping in the air for Google because they fired about 30 people because they support Israel in some sort of huge lucrative contract, and they said nope. You cannot do this. So I'm shocked because I would assume Google executives are liberal.
Well, they are liberal, but
the bottom line is money.
When the employees went and occupied the CEO's office, Google drew the line and said, "We are a business, okay? We are a business."
I was proud.
You don't come in here and protest and occupy the CEO's office. You're fired. And that's exactly what should have happened.
Well, I know somebody that's at Columbia getting a master's, and so Columbia. So I messaged them. I'm like, "Are you okay?" But they're getting a tech degree, so they're like, on the tech side, it's not so crazy over here. But I was worried, and I know someone else's child's at NYU, so I messaged them, and they're like, they're fine. They're just studying for finals. But you worry about all these children, and as a parent, especially when my daughter was at UF. She got a double degree. So she got to do the undergrad in December and then the master's in the spring back to back. And she only wanted to do one ceremony. But I was like, oh my gosh, sign up for 2. What if you can't? What if there's another COVID movement? These are lifelong events. You never get a chance to do it. Because I know when I was in college, I just wanted to be a lieutenant. So I had to go. Went to George Mason, and then I would drive to University of Maryland an hour away. So I didn't go to my college graduation because for me, being a lieutenant was more important. And I regret I didn't do it. And to take that away from these, because I had a ceremony, right? Becoming a lieutenant, a butter bar. But to take that away from students that have worked so hard, I can't imagine not being able to pin on my lieutenant bars if somebody took that away, or walk with your cap and gown to get your diploma.
Well, it's one thing to protest, but when it turns to violence and threats of violence and all this kind of stuff, and the proper way to evaluate this is if these student protesters were in white hoods KKK crosses burning on the student quad, would they be tolerated the same way these Hamas people are? That's the bottom line, and we all know the answer. The answer is, if the KKK showed up and started burning crosses on the quad, the police would be in there in 10 nanoseconds to clear them out, and they would have no problems using clubs or whatever to get them out, because it's an unfavorable group. So it's not about free speech. Okay, so forget the free speech.
No, there's terrorism now when you want a country to be taken out, and you aren't okay with Jewish people. And I'm worried that there's going to be an escalation. And what about all these tents popping up? This is crap. College.
It's a coordinated effort. There's money behind it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, these people that are all sitting there saying, we're Hamas. Hamas is a designated terrorist organization by the United States of America. If somebody sits there and says, I'm Hamas, they should be arrested on the spot and deported.
Well, I really think I want two things. I want everybody to watch how an abortion's done, if you're that brave. Right. And then I want you to watch that video of those Israeli children, babies, women being raped, what they did to these people. I just thinking about it, I'm sick. I can't even imagine watching.
I tell you what, Veronica, after this week, this week, I would have agreed with you. I had the unfortunate experience of sitting on a jury this week in Bay County, and the charge was a 55-year-old man that molested and had sex with his 14-year-old stepdaughter. Okay? And she testified in court about it. And I tell you what, I had problems sleeping after hearing that. I mean, there was just something was so fundamentally disturbing about it that I just couldn't, it was really, you can't unsee it, okay? You can't unsee it.
Well, you're so brave to have done it, because I wouldn't want to be on that case. I mean, I'm still scarred from seeing 4 pages of Gender Queer, the book, that was a cartoon, and you've just lived like the real life thing. And
well, that was the thing, that there was a victim up there on the stand that was real, and I she still lives. I don't want to really go into too much detail, because I don't want her to feel bad about it, or worse than she already does, I'm sure, of having to testify about it. But at least, Bay County doesn't play, okay? So the judge, we found him guilty on 3 counts, and the judge sentenced him to 2 life sentences.
Well, you're a superhero to sit on that jury, because I don't know if I could have done it. I told you back in the day I was invited to be an OSI agent, and when I researched because they really wanted strong women, but when it came to like sex cases, I was like, I'm not strong enough to see. I don't want to see child porn. I don't want, because we read all the news stories and
during jury selection, a lot, particularly women that had children, said they could not do it.
Yeah. So thank you, John, for stepping up. You're a superhero. You put a man behind bars. That's wonderful.
And there was a similar story. I mean, it's
your Tennessee story.
He got convicted of in 2 life sentences. In Tennessee, they've made it. They passed it for a death penalty for child rapists. So if this had been Tennessee and we found him guilty, he could have been sentenced to death. So,
is this what it's going to take? Because our society's so dumb and lets these people out, and nothing happens to him. Just like the guy that raped the college student and killed her in Georgia. Right. If he'd been in prison, we wouldn't have these things. But I'm impressed with Tennessee, because the other thing, Tennessee is talking about that teacher gun law, that teachers can carry. Teachers are going to be allowed to carry guns, and as long as they have a Tennessee handgun permit, they undergo background check, submit 2 sets of fingerprints. They'd have to receive psychological and psychiatric certification from a licensed healthcare provider 40 hours of basic training in school policing, and they have to sign off on a form. They get to carry guns in Tennessee, and I am all for that. So I commented on Twitter. I said, this is excellent. Concealed carry trained teachers are the first line of defense of keeping teachers safe. That is what I wrote. And people, you get attacked for that. You get attacked for wanting to keep kids safe.
Well, what's interesting, Veronica, from a psychological standpoint, okay, these shooters are cowards, okay? The bottom line, they're cowards, okay? But they go in there, the places that all these shootings happen at, there's been no barriers to entry. They just basically walk in the door and start shooting people up with very little consequences. The places they bypass are the ones that have security, or they know that they're not going to get very far before somebody intervenes. So if you know the school has teachers with guns that will shoot back at you, what do you think the likelihood
and that's
of
what I put
ever
too.
Going in there?
I wrote deterrence in all caps because we know when you have a strong president, the enemy doesn't mess around. And if you have teachers that we know are carrying, it's called deterrence. And people aren't going to be messing around.
But where is the argument? Where's the why do we not hear the counter argument that the fact that you have armed teachers means the likelihood of those teachers ever having to use their weapon diminishes, goes way down. I mean, way down because of the fact they're armed. That's why people don't walk into the police stations and start shooting the police. Why is that? Because the police are going to shoot back. That's why. And that's just the way our society, is it becoming the Wild West? Yeah, I think so. We're all going to have to. That's why I'm for open carry, by the way. I think we are going to have to start openly carrying arms to defend ourselves and send a message to the criminals that would try to prey on us. You screw with me, I am going to kill you. And if they get that message, they're not going to mess with you, are they? They're going to go find the easy target, which is what every one of these chicken crap school shooters do. They go find the easy target.
Well, every week I listen in the morning live to the Cooner Report out of Boston, and I love this guy, Jeff Cooner. He used to work for Washington Times. He would fill in for Michael Savage. And I guess in Boston, they had a trans boy that says he's a girl, wrote a manifesto with a list of 45 people in the school saying who he was going to shoot. And they didn't even tell the parents, and they're letting him stay in the classroom. And so now some of the parents know, and they're not fighting back. I would pull my kid out of there. We would not tolerate this. Why does a trans student get to dictate all of this? And he had 45 names on the list, John. That kid needs to be out. And I saw another X post, and it had like all these shootings. And it was, let me tell you how many trans shootings there were. There was a lot, because these people are they're mentally deranged with their sexuality, and now they're mad at people. So we've got to take control, and great on you. You're a superhero. I commend you, John, because I would have done it, but it would have been hard. The problem is it's hard for me to, like I said, those 4 genderqueer pages I saw are like they're stained into my head because I was so traumatized by seeing it that and then I couldn't believe what I saw.
Right. And every time I hear this thing about banning books in schools, it's like you people are uninformed. You don't understand what these books are and what's in them that they should never see the light of day in a school. And I don't care how old the kids are. A public school should never, ever, ever have that kind of material in the school. And I, if they want to be adults and go do that, fine. That's their business. I don't care. But putting it in children, minors' hands, you end up with this. I don't want to do a cause and effect here, but we're in this weird society now.
Well,
it's too weird.
We're missing the moral compass that we talk about all the time.
Right,
but
because we're no longer a God-centric nation.
No, and I don't know how to get back besides pray, pray, pray. And I want teachers in Tennessee to be carrying a weapon for deterrence and first line of defense, because I'm tired of churches and schools being soft targets. And that's the other thing. Now all these Jewish people, they were like, what was the Muslim holiday that we just had? They're just like, oh my gosh, maybe you shouldn't be going to your Jewish synagogue because we're having a holiday and they might come take you out. And I'm like, since what year are we? We're 2024, and a Jewish person can't go to synagogue without. Well, they're going to need security now, of course, which I think they've needed for a while. And same with Catholic churches. I mean, all churches, it's a scary place right now.
Well, the thing about the Jewish churches in particular, Veronica, I read a story in the Wall Street Journal this week. They have a national organization. It's a homeland security style organization that is aimed purely at protecting Jewish synagogues and Jewish people in the United States. And they basically have intel gathering operations. And they're trying to find these crazy people that are out that are going to be threats and stop them. They go into the churches and teach the church members how to defend themselves when these crazy people come in. And it has actually saved lives, believe it or not. They've actually had, they had one case where they said, well, the I don't know what the Jewish people call it. They're not parishioners, obviously, but the synagogue member. They taught him, like, if you don't have any weapon at all and you're confronted with somebody, anything can become a weapon. Pick up a chair and throw it at them. That will give you time to do.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. Somebody came in, some crazy came in and was threatening the people, and one of the synagogue members picked up a chair and threw it at them, and they were able to escape from that situation. So,
wow.
But it's really bad when you have to have a national organization that's looking on the lookout for these, and there are a lot of crazies. Back to America.
Well,
I am Hamas. It's in the United States.
And Jewish liberals are still voting for Biden that doesn't care. Because if a Trump was in there, he would send National Guard in there and clean house at all these colleges. Because what is a college? It's a place of learning. It's where you're trying to get a degree for your future, John, not for taking out Israel and hating Jewish people. So, yeah, done with that. The last story I want to talk about is the Adam Schiff. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we finish, I just want, while we're still on the Hamas crazies and stuff, and the idiots in Detroit shouting death to America, I heard a really funny one yesterday. You had this Pakistan and Uzbekistan and all these Afghanistan. You got all these different stands, right, where you have all these crazies at. And they called it Detroitistans for all the death to America people that are up there. That's become literally another country in a country,
Well,
and
they need to deport people that don't like America.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the last story I want to talk about before we talk about our cartoons and wrap it up is Adam Schiff reportedly robbed in San Francisco, forced to attend his Ritzy campaign dinner with no suit because, number one, he was a dumbass. You don't ever leave your bags in a car visible. Okay, that's rule number one. I don't care where you live. And so he was supposedly attending this swanky event, and I guess the car was parked in a parking garage. And so anyways, I wrote something on X to the effect that, hope you enjoyed this party that you created, because how hysterical is that? I thought it was. It
is. It's the irony. It just drips with irony. And he looks like he had his street clothes on. He looked like a dork, number one. Of course, he always looks like a dork, but even looked more dorkish. Very uncoordinated. At least, with the suit, it's hard to be uncoordinated with the suit.
Yeah.
But he looked definitely like somebody needs to teach him to dress. But, when it comes back on the liberals, the irony's there, but the problem is it doesn't change them. It doesn't do anything to them. And they have no moral basis, I mean, we're still waiting for the ironclad evidence that Pencil Neck had on the Trump collusion. Where's it at? We've never seen it because he was lying about it, and he lies about everything. But I hope Steve Garvey takes that race.
I heard him this morning actually on Fox News, and he's not going to tolerate protesters. He's not going to he's going to clean up the crime. You've got to keep people in prison, and you've got to have hard, like in Tennessee, if you rape a child, if there's a death penalty attached to it, maybe that'll start changing the way the world, revolves. When are children or babies not the most important thing in a society? Why do we have to talk about this every week, that our society is so messed up that you don't have your priorities right?
Well, maybe, there's always a tipping point, Veronica, and it's when people have had enough. That's when you reach the tipping point, and things will change.
I've been there for a couple years, and then I'm worried because there's no red wave. And
there's not going to be a red wave. It's not bad enough yet.
Where is it? And then, I was on X yesterday. This man with a ton of followers commented that Steve Bannon, who worked with Trump, who has his own show that the left has gone after, commented that Trump's not going to win in November. And then we've had retired Congressman Jeff Davis on, who said he's not going to win. So I'm really so worried. I don't know if we have to start doing a 24/7 prayer for our country, movement, because if we don't win, where are we going to be? With the Lesbian Visibility Week, I don't care, transgender visibility, whatever, on Easter. Everything is so crazy right now.
Well, I think at the end of the day, Trump will win in November, provided a couple things. One, they keep talking about these black swan events. There's going to be some black swan event, which means some back to the tipping point thing. Something will happen, and everybody, let's say there's a war with Russia. We go to war with Russia, they attack us or whatever. It's like the 9/11 thing. Okay, the 9/11 thing was a tipping point. That if there had been some say Republican was in charge and it showed that his negligence was what caused that 9/11 attack, that was so horrendous, and the country all got behind the response to that. Almost 80-90% of the country was united. Those are tipping point moments, and that's what we've not gotten to. But Joe Biden is so bad, I mean so bad, that unless they lie, cheat, and steal, what you're going to do to steal the election again, then that's the only way they win, is through lying, cheating, and stealing. If it's a straight up Biden versus Trump, I think Trump's going to take it because of the economic situation.
Well, but it's going to be so bad because now people are starting to realize if Trump doesn't take it, that again on X, the tax cuts that will go away. And it's going to be on the backs of the hardworking middle class people that were trying to work every day to make it happen. And then we're losing people in the middle class because they can't even pay their car insurance. Right.
So I'll give you a good example. Let's say gas prices go to $5 a gallon in October before the election. Do you think Joe Biden's going to win? Nope.
Well, here was a story on CNN today, and they've carried this story several times on Communist News Network because, I listen to CNN and watch CNN for our listeners because I have to bring the education of the left. Guess what got postponed? And this was a story a couple weeks ago, is that they're trying to stop making menthol cigarettes, and 83% of the users of menthol cigarettes are African Americans. Yep. And so they're like, nope, stop. We gotta hold on to this because guess why? They don't want to piss off black people that want their menthol. So they're going to wait till November 7th to deal with the menthol. So this is the second time I've heard this story now in a span of a few weeks because they're so worried about the black vote and then there was some statistic that if they stopped the menthol cigarettes, that in I don't know if it was 10 or 20 years, it would save 300,000 black people's lives. So that's not important, John. Winning the White House is.
Exactly. So they have no morals, and all they care about is winning the election. And back to my comment about gas prices. What's going on with gas right now? The Biden administration is allowing Iran and Russia to sell their crude oil into the world market to keep the prices down. So in effect, we're paying for Russia. Because we're the world's largest energy user, we're paying the Russians to put fuel on the market and make a profit so they can buy arms to fight the Ukrainians, which we're spending money on sending money to the Ukraine so they can fight the Russians with the weapons that we're funding for the Russians to buy. I mean, is that not insane?
Well, the whole thing's insane because literally the man can't even tie his shoe.
Right.
And I think they must have to drug him because really the whole Howard Stern, besides the Trump, that he would debate Trump, was this, his talking about when he was a young guy and he was an eligible bachelor and the women would like send him pictures in the mail. Why do I care about that? Why do I care about that? And I don't even know how he made it like an hour and 10 minutes,
I don't either, but
not even talking real issues, John.
Right. Because there are no real issues. All they're doing is manipulating us, back to the gas story. Why are they doing this? Why are they allowing it? Because they wanted to stop Russia from funding the war. They would shut down their oil production. They wouldn't have any money. They wouldn't get any money. If they want to shut down Iran, they'd stop their oil production. They wouldn't have any money. But they won't do that because if they shut down Russian and Iranian oil production, the price of oil goes up. Now you've got $5 and $6 a gallon gas. And guess who's getting blamed for it? Because they've shut down U.S. production. The Biden administration. And you think they're going to win an election with $5 or $6 a gallon gas?
They're not going to win an election if you take away my menthol cigarettes. I mean, the five cigarettes I've ever smoked in life, I really enjoyed the 4 that were menthol. So if I was going to be a smoker, I'd be smoking menthol. But this is such craziness. But we've had a huge show today. I mean, Linda Cope, Warrior Beach Retreat, she's got her golf tournament coming up. So if you live here locally, go to warriorbeachretreat.org. And then this next weekend is the Gulf Coast Salute. So there's going to be a tremendous air show here in the Panhandle on the beach. So come to Panama City Beach if you want to see, America's finest flying jet noise. I cannot wait. And I'm going to go to the party Friday night and hang out with the cute Thunderbirds. Oh, I can't wait. And then Patrick Chapin, the president and CEO of Bay County Chamber. He's only been here 3 months, but what an incredible interview. He delivered, and it was wonderful, I thought. Wow, I'm so glad he's got the reins of the Bay County Chamber, and I really hope we continue to lead the way. And then our new mayor of 48 Hours, Mayor Stuart Tettemer, I love his name. I love that, Tettemer. Panama City Beach mayor, came out of nowhere, crushed it. He's our new mayor for the next 4 years. And it was a brilliant interview, actually. And he cares about the roads and, the local citizen. We do get forgotten so often. So that was great. And looks like, I hear a helicopter. I live on the water. Okay, is the army coming to raid me at the end of the show? It sounds like an osprey. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Because I do have ospreys fly over several times. I get excited and I run out. But it looks like George Santos, the former congressman, now has become friendly with me. And he said it on his show last night with 15,000 people listening that he's going to come on Veronica Live. And then looks like this week, too, we're going to have a big interview with Alan Dershowitz, famous attorney. He's a liberal, but, he understands the Constitution, and I think he supports Trump because of what's gone down. So that'll be in, you'll have to look for it on our podcast.
He's a Democrat. I think he legally supports Trump, but I don't think he supports him for election. Of course, he doesn't support Biden either. So,
It'll be interesting because he's on national news, Fox News, and CNN all the time. But we'll close with our cartoons, John. You always send me the cutest cartoons. And my favorite. Okay, what does it say? I don't have my glasses. I got to put my glasses on because I haven't looked at them since right now.
Okay, so the first one is there's 3 people there. It says one has a shirt on that says student protesters. The other one says college administrators. And the third one says, I'm with stupid. Okay.
So what is on the button? The I can't read what is on that button. It says, I love something on the button of the student protester. I'm going to say, I don't know. It's like really hard to read.
Yeah, I can't quite make it out either.
Wait, but it says, I love terrorists. Is what it says.
So the student's holding up a sign that says, from the river to the sea, support Hamas. Okay. So that's a student with their, I forget what that Palestinian blue and white
the
thing
black
is.
Black and white.
They wrap around them. So that's see no evil. And then hear no evil is the college administrator with their fingers in their ear. And then evil is a Hamas terrorist with the smoking AK-47 saying, I'm with stupid. pointing
to both of them, actually. Well, and then this week, Biden, it's always Biden buffoonery. So he went to give a speech. And so it's got Biden at his presidential podium, and he's got 2 people looking on. And so he says, so I hope I can count on your support in November. Pause. Leave the podium quickly and ignore reporters shouting questions. So he's saying this because he's reading all the prompts. And then the 2 people are looking at him. They're like, seriously? No more stage directions in the teleprompter, which this has happened so many times. And like, I just did I'm making a video. It's like a commercial. So I wrote a script this week and I wrote those comments in red, but you would think the stage directions that at this point, like when I was shooting the commercial, like, my people were competent that I was doing the commercial with, but you'd think that they'd stop adding that because now this has happened multiple times, John.
Well, they just need to start getting somebody to go up there and just lead him off the stage, like Jill or somebody, but they just need to literally lead him off the stage anymore. It's kind of the Ron Burgundy thing, somebody's going to slip in something one of these days on that teleprompter and he's going to read it.
Oh my gosh. Right. I'm with idiot. It's going to say, or I am the idiot.
I'm the idiot.
Well, I do want to say this is breaking news too, is that, and we're going to have her on the show next week. Rhonda Woodward, I can't say her, Woodward, is challenging Neil Dunn in the Congressional District 2 because she filed, and I know she sent me her website, so I was looking at it, and so she's running against Neil Dunn because my slogan is I'm done with Dunn. So because I don't ever see him. I mean, people tell me that are in DC how much they love him all the time. But I just, like, he's not, if he really is taking care of you and me, he needs to hire some people. Hire me. I'll do your social media because I can't tell in your social media that you're working for me. And then when I call your office, you don't call me back. So, and I have a cell number, but I'm not going to call a cell number. So anyways, so Panama City conservative Rhonda Woodward announced she's running against him. Woodward emphasized herself as bold, unapologetic, never compromising conservative rather than a bipartisan people pleaser. She also pointed out she's a lifelong Floridian. She was a single mother who worked her way out of poverty. And her platform centers around securing the border, advocating for absolute freedom, implementing America's first agenda. She's a huge Trumper. And so standing with former Donald Trump, she'll be right there. She's fighting for fiscal responsibility and upholding conservative values. And it says Dunn has only faced Republican primary opposition for a seat one time, and that was in 2016 when he ran against Mary Thomas, who I helped fight for the seat, and she lost by 1%. And really, it should have been Mary because she worked so much harder. The congressman has been endorsed.
I don't know that I agree with that part, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, she did. She did way more than Dunn ever did.
Well, she did more than him, but I don't think I think that her campaign was
Well, she was a little too negative with him. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it was a Washington campaign.
Well, and then Scott didn't endorse her until like the last week, like DeSantis just did with Sheldon. That didn't come out till the last week. And I'm like, if you're going to endorse these people and you're in a big position, you don't wait till the last freaking week. I mean, that's
right.
weak.
But she did not want to do the retail politics, Veronica. That was my criticism of her. Was she did not want to get out and do retail politics. She wanted to do a campaign ad driven, Washington kind of campaign. And I think she was. Well,
she knocked on doors all over the district. I think the problem, reflecting back, because I was intimately working on that campaign, was she did try to attack Dunn on the stage. And I did a big, huge debate here where I had a bunch of famous, Kaz, that was the editor of the News Herald, was on the stage, and Amy Hoyt was on the stage, and so I had big people. I wasn't involved in picking the questions, and she went after Dunn, and out on the stage, like, people didn't like that, because when you're a woman, they think of you as a bitch when you do something like that, and so it was too bitchy. And women, we have you have to tread lightly, because like now with Kristi Noem killing her dog, you can't come back from that. But it does say the congressman has been endorsed by multiple state officials, to include Jim Jordan, Jimmy Patronis, Wilton Simpson, who I tried to call numerous times to come on my show, and he was another one that wouldn't go local. And then Evan Power, of course, and who also Dunn endorsed Evan Power when he ran for RPO chairman. Yep. Dunn endorsed Trump in January, and his campaign issues center around combating Biden inflation, standing against the Chinese Communist Party, expanding the economy, and more. Dunn's district came under particular fire after the state redrew Florida's congressional map, ultimately eliminating Democrat Majority District 5, formerly held by Al Lawson, who ran against Dunn in 2022 and lost by 19 points. So we're going to have her on, and
I don't know. Last piece, it had nothing to do the district.
Yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Steve Sutherland won the district before they redrew
it.
Okay,
right.
That was a debate I had with Alan Bentz. Because Alan Bentz was convinced we couldn't win without redrawing the district. I told him, you're wrong. You don't understand the district.
Well, the Dems I've met in our district are blue dog Dems, and they're almost Republicans, I have to say.
Right.
So and I've met a lot of them.
You'll win, and that's what Steve Sutherland did. He went out and spent a year traveling the district, talking to people. That's how you win.
Well, he didn't do it his third go, and his people were awful. So I'm not a fan. But I will say, I'm excited to host her, and we'll see what happens. And because I didn't think Sheldon would lose, and I wasn't paying attention. And obviously, people are fed up right now, and if they don't see you in action, and I've looked at Dunn's social media for the last 2 months, there was literally 3 posts of him. The rest was the Dunn team, which I reached out to multiple times to come to my event for this billionaire that put $50 million in our county, and they never called me back. So I have a problem with this, because, we've got to wine and dine people to get their money here. You need to show up if you're not in session. And so I don't know. I'm excited about hosting Rhonda on the show, and we'll see where it goes, honestly. The seat might be up for the taking, because I haven't seen anything from this campaign. And I haven't even seen a Dunn sign yet at all.
Well, like I said, if they're, Panama City Beach just showed the power of incumbency doesn't mean automatic reelection.
Right. Everybody gets all snooty and thinks they have it. And that happened to Dunn, or not Dunn, Sutherland, his third go. They were like, we got this,
We got this. Exactly right.
There was a lot of stupid things that went on. And then when he made national news because he lived in a lingerie store with the quote, let's start there. When I write my book, it's going to be really good, John. It's going to be good.
Just don't talk about killing your dog, okay?
No. Well, I tried to kill 2 last week when they ate a plant, and that cost me $200. And oh my goodness! I mean, they've only ever eaten grass and an acorn. Who would eat a gross plant? So Thanks for joining Veronica Live. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and of course we're on all the podcast platforms: Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Podcast Addict, YouTube, LinkedIn. I posted a lot of the big heavy hitter interviews, sometimes on True Social when I have the energy. But we're always looking for a sponsor. We'd love to go national. And truly, John, you're a wonderful wingman. Thanks for being a superhero and putting a sex offender away for life twice. So amen to that.
Sad but true.
But God bless everyone, and we've got plenty of hot interviews. So check us out on all the platforms. And Veronica Live out. We'll see you next time.